And I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema. If you aren't familiar with the program, Catching Up on Cinema is a film analysis podcast wherein we introduce each other to films, expand our cinematic horizons, and, in essence, catch up on our cinema. So it is the month of March 2021, and we are in the midst of our March of the Monsters event month, where in anticipation of the Godzilla vs. Kong film dropping on HBO Max at the end of the month and arriving in theaters very shortly, as far as I understand, we've been reviewing some of the earlier entries of the filmographies of those two respective characters. So that would be Godzilla, who began his career in 1954, and King Kong, who began his even earlier in 1933. So this week, we're going to be covering a film that I gave Kyle every opportunity to not cover. However, he was very insistent that, that I've heard some shit about this. I got to see this. I got to see this train wreck. That would be John Guillermin's King Kong from 1976. Most important thing to know about this production is that Dino De Laurentiis from Italy was the chief producer of the project, and his fingerprints are kind of all over it. Take from that what you will. But Kyle, normally we don't do this, but I'd like to just ask you straight up, what did you think of this one?
Disappointing in that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, and that it started off really strong, and it just kind of goes nowhere, unfortunately. I think it had real potential to be a pretty good movie. I think the casting was really good. I wanted to punch Charles Grodin. He has a punchable face and demeanor. I don't know what it is about him. And you've got Jeff Bridges in here. Put a pin in that because I wanted to ask you something. And then I think the thing that really makes this movie worth the watch, even though it's bad, is the smoke show that is Jessica Lange.
Yeah, Jessica Lange making her on-screen debut. As far as I understand, she was hand-picked by producer Dino De Laurentiis, and at the time she was strictly just like a model. As far as I know, she didn't really have acting experience, but if you ask me, I mean, smoke show that she was and currently is, she kind of brought it for this role. Like, it's actually kind of shocking that I was telling you before we started recording that, curiously enough, in our giant monster movie, like from a script standpoint, from a character standpoint, this character Dwan, fuck that name, by the way.
She even has to explain how stupid it is.
Yeah.
It's like Swan, but with a D.
Yeah, I just decided to flip some letters to make it more memorable. It's like, oh my god. It's like, yeah, but that's what I'm talking about, though. It's like, yes, that's an embarrassing line. That's an embarrassing name for that character. However, if you look at that character just on paper, it's kind of a demanding performance. Like, it's a layered performance that you actually do have to have talent to make work. Otherwise, she would just come across as just a completely, she'd be a space cadet, just a complete dunce, or a bimbo or something. But no, there's layers to it where she actually comes across as like a very sympathetic and actually very sad character in many ways. And it's to her credit that you're able to see that, even though the character literally is kind of an idiot.
Yeah. Well, I think the casting is really good in this movie. I like the little character actors in here. There's a few I'd like to point out as we kind of get into it. But what was I gonna say? I think this movie does a really good job with character development. Like, you have not necessarily a villain, but a guy that you really don't like. You can pretty much rally behind Jeff Bridges in anything, but I think he's pretty good in here as the hippie, and her. I think the performances are good in this. Oh, I wish there was more of Pops Griswold, the Clark W. Griswold's dad. He's the captain.
Oh, shit! I didn't make that connection.
Yeah, that's Clark W. Griswold's dad. I liked his,
very nice.
Yeah, I liked him in this movie. I'm like, I wish they did a little bit more time on the ship. And I actually really liked that sequence. I love the beginning part of the movie when, like, we're on the ship, kind of figuring out what's going on. It's fun, and then I'm not sure exactly where it goes wrong, but it does.
Well, I'll ask you to give a plot rundown. Not that we need one, but before that, I'll just get the customary production details out of the way. So, a little thing happened in the '70s called a movie called Jaws, directed by Steven Spielberg. The story goes that Dino De Laurentiis, very prolific, very very powerful producer, Italian producer, has his name attached to countless high-profile productions. I think Serpico was one of the really big ones he had in the '70s. He's had many big ones, and big would kind of become an important word to associate with his filmography around the time King Kong was made. But the story goes he was very taken with the idea of Jaws and, of course, the financial success of Jaws. And so he kind of made it like a passion project of his. He was like, God damn it! I want my own big shark thing! So King Kong, somehow he worked out a deal with Paramount to secure the rights to the character. And this project came together. And apparently Roman Polanski at one point was fingered to be the director, which would have probably been a really interesting and probably much better film.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, but later on, he'd also make Orca in 1977, which is a film that I have a very, very soft spot for, mostly because of what it is. And it has like a mythic vibe to it that it's not a very good movie, but it has one of the most beautiful soundtracks I know of. It's done by Ennio Morricone, who is, of course, one of our greatest composers we've ever had. But the movie itself is downright silly at times, and kind of criminally boring at other times, but somehow it just works for me personally. But anyway, I'm not going to go into too much more detail here, but the idea is, just keep in the back of your mind that King Kong kind of came to light because this guy, Dino, wanted a big monster movie to make all the money, and he never really got what he wanted, although as far as I understand, this film did all right. But it was massive. It was massively expensive, though, is the problem.
Yeah.
It was one of the biggest movies of its day.
Some of his highlights as a producer: Halloween 2, Conan the Barbarian. We have another Conan, Dune, which I think that would have been his next big one. Nothing against David Lynch, but, what are you going to do? Raw Deal, Manhunter, Blue Velvet. It looks like he's worked with David Lynch a few times. Army of Darkness. He's got a lot of shit on here.
Yeah, no, he's a very prolific, very powerful producer. He's given us many good things. Mm-hmm. This, unfortunately, doesn't really quite land in the good zone. It's more towards the middle.
Yeah.
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 But other thing to note here is a director, John Guillermin. We actually ended up recording this episode a little later than we normally do, which left me with a few days to just sit on my hands, or not. So in my case, I decide, I don't know this guy John Guillermin, but I've seen in interviews that people just kind of throw their hands up and say, oh, John Guillermin, of course, he's the right guy for the job. It's the fuck did this guy do? And immediately I, in glancing over his filmography, I noticed that he directed The Towering Inferno only a couple of years before. And I'd never seen that movie, but I'd always wanted to because, A, I love disaster movies, especially if the natural variety, but I'll settle for, a man-made disaster as well. And it's also one of those disaster movies that has a cast of thousands. Mm-hmm. It has, everybody in it from the mid-'70s.
It has O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, O.J. Simpson, and one of my favorites, Robert Wagner. He's only in it for a little bit, but, you got Steve McQueen and Paul Newman headlining the cast. It's a star-studded cast, and it was a very big special effects heavy production. So in learning that, I was like, oh, that does make sense. Although I did watch it, and it has a very different feel. It's a very, very different movie. I have mixed feelings about it, mostly having to do with the pace of it. But I will say this much: whenever we got to do another cinematic deaths episode, because this movie has a couple that I need to tell people about. I was like, oh shit! Really, I was like, you could do that in the 70s to that guy? But he's a guy. He's a big name guy. But yeah, as far as I know, he probably got the gig either because Roman Polanski was busy, or because he had experience dealing with like heavy optical effects and like big sets and big egos on the set. So that's my guess. And I guess some of the other details I can just share as we go. So Kyle, would you like to give a plot rundown for King Kong 76?
Yeah.
It should be fish in a barrel.
Yeah, I think the reason why Roman Polanski wasn't doing it was because... Well, no, actually, never mind.
What was he up to at the time?
I thought this came out after... Or I thought this came out before Rosemary's Baby. Rosemary's Baby was 68. So it was...
Oh, wow, that was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. So I'm not sure why Roman Polanski didn't do that. But, yeah... So this is pretty close to the original, just kind of it goes off a little bit different. So instead of a movie producer, we have a guy who works for an oil company who believes he's found a big old pile of oil on this island, and come to find out there is oil, but there's also a big giant gorilla, and their plan is to much like King Kong versus Godzilla, use him as a marketing ploy to sell more oil, and merry mishaps ensue.
Yes, it's always important to wrap up pretty much every plot description with that phrase. In this case, yeah, the most merry of merry mishaps.
Yeah, mishaps. Yeah, kind of.
But yeah, I don't know if you want to cover this movie beat for beat. It's actually not that hard to do because not a whole lot happens.
No, it's actually pretty easy.
Yeah, many of these scenes end up being 10, 15 minutes long, and exactly nothing happens in them. So we actually could hit it bullet point by bullet point and, be back in time for cornflakes. But yeah, I do have to give this movie like all the credit in the world for having a decent opening.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I like
not,
the score.
I'm glad you brought that up because I heard like 3 notes of the score, and without knowing, I was like, that's John Barry. And do you know who John Barry is, Kyle?
I do not.
Okay, well, he's not as important to you, I don't think, because John Barry is most known for doing most of the early James Bond films. So he gave us the James Bond theme music, and he did the scores for most of those early Bond movies, and some of the ones from like the 80s and stuff. He's very talented, but he does have a sound. And the second the strings kicked in, I was like, where's Roger Moore? like, shouldn't Christopher Walken be showing up and fighting King Kong on the Golden Gate Bridge or something? But yeah, the score is quite pretty, especially like the more romantic, like contemplative bits. But I found it so fucking distracting because all I could visualize with every note of it was fucking Sean Connery and Roger Moore and even Timothy Dalton and shit. I was like, John Barry, you are too Barry.
Let's say like a John Williams score is very iconic, and you do not get it confused with anything else.
Yeah, John Williams. Funny enough, I believe he did the score for the Towering Inferno. And that was another case where I heard the first few notes, and I was like, is that Johnny? And yeah, it totally was. It was an early score of his. And I was like, wow, he's been doing good work since the cradle, apparently. I hope he still has a few good scores left in him. I don't know if he's retired by now. But like Danny Elfman, I want to say at some point you start to like get a little bit lazy. I think everybody, yeah.
Danny Elfman's been lazy for a while.
He has, unfortunately. I think one of the last good ones I can think of for him was that Wanted movie that nobody saw.
That the James McAvoy?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Only good part of it really is hearing Morgan Freeman use the phrase "this motherfucker." I was like, yeah. Old Morgan Freeman dropping F-bombs. I haven't heard that ever.
Is that directed by one of the Three Stooges of aggro nonsense? Nope, it's not. That's a different one.
You would think. It's a Russian fella. It's the guy who did Daybreakers, I think.
I am familiar with that. Oh, he did the Ben-Hur remake.
Oh, Toby Kebbell's in that. You gotta watch out, buddy.
I'm not
Also,
gonna watch...
Morgan Freeman with dreads.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was probably a holdover from Wanted, where it's just like, I've worked with him before. Sure, I'll take a paycheck. And it's like, oh, Toby Kebbell's on set.
He also did the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter movie.
He has a particular lane.
I guess.
Anyway,
yeah.
So the opening of this movie does open very similar to the original 1933 King Kong. We get a title. So we have like a ship in a harbor, and like an on-screen title saying Surabaya. So I think that's in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Or thereabouts. And then they don't drag it out. That's actually to this movie's benefit. This is one of the few instances where they don't. But we just have a couple of fellas, like just guys who work on the ship, talking about what they're going to be doing whenever they get to where they're going. And it has that kind of like air of mystery about it that the original had, although it doesn't have like the exposition dump that I found very charming in the original King Kong, where it's just like two characters who will never play a part in anything to come. It's like, hey, what's the ship doing? Where is it going? I'll tell you where it's going, buddy.
I hear there's a director who's gonna go find a movie somewhere. Yeah,
he's looking for a big giant gorilla. It's like, got it. That's why the cargo's full of bananas.
Yeah, you don't really know. Like, we know because we just watched King Kong. We're like, all right, they're gonna be going to an island for something. But yeah, I like how you don't really know what's gonna happen. I love how Jeff Bridges' characters. What's his name? I just call him the hippie or the dude. It doesn't really matter.
So he is Jack Prescott. And I can't remember if the original Jack is this. I think they changed the last name from the original King Kong, but I think he was also a Jack, the skinny guy with the pants. And I think all the other major character names, the basic silhouette, the basic outline of, say, the Fay Wray character and whatever his fuck was, those two characters are basically present, but their names have been changed and their interpretations are totally different. But yeah, do you wanna let us know how Jeff Bridges enters the film?
I love it because he's showing up and he's about to like request permission to go into the shipyard, and he like stumbles out of the car like he's hammered drunk. I'm like, yeah, that's about right. That is on point, sailor. You look like you're about to go onto a ship, dude. And your liberty's over, bro. But yeah, the guard tells him like, fuck off, you can't get on here, and he drops a wad of cash in front of this. I mean, it's a lot of money. He gets in there, no problem, and he sneaks onto this boat really well. He goes onto one of the mooring lines. He like tosses his sea bag, and he scales the rope and gets right onto the ship. And I'm like, damn, that was pretty cool. I don't know how he does it. It was really close, but yeah, he stows away onto the ship.
Yeah, I think he like hides under a tarp on like one of the lifeboats or something.
Yeah, dude, they're in like high seas when he's out in that ship. I'm like, dude, that is some dangerous. It is super dangerous.
Yeah, later on we do get to see him out in the elements. It's like, you may want to move, buddy. Like, get out of there. That doesn't look safe. But yeah, not to make too many monkey jokes, but he did look like a squirrel monkey or something, or a lemur crawling along those roads. Because whoever that stunt actor was, they knew what they were doing.
I don't think it would have changed this movie at all. I think it would have been just as fun if you had Kurt Russell playing this role.
Oh, man, Kyle, you're breaking my heart. Because that would just make such a better movie, if you ask me. I like Jeff Bridges quite a bit, but this movie is in desperate need of fun.
Yes, and he is the guy. Can you imagine him?
He is fun personified.
The sexual charisma between him and Jessica Lange, like, yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
Have you ever seen any of those absolutely no words, like YouTube clips, where basically they take someone speaking and they remove all the words and only keep the breathing?
Yes, yes, I have. I watched one that was really funny. It is Grease. They did it.
I haven't seen that, but I'm sure it's hilarious. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite is, of course, the Ultimate Warrior. Just. But you could totally do that if you had King Kong 76 and you had Jessica Lange and Kurt Russell. You could do that for like all the hair flips.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Yeah.
every shot with either of them begins with a hair flip. It's just like.
Yeah, you know what? He might be too much fun for this movie. I think
He
it's like,
is. That's the problem.
Yeah, he's too much fun. But
He's
yeah,
too much fun.
I think him playing off of Charles Grodin would have been a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, no, he would have lots of zingers. The main difference would be Charles Grodin is an awkward character in this movie because the performance he is giving is out of step with everyone else. Mm-hmm. He is a cartoon character. He's borderline Montana Max / Yosemite Sam.
I'm not going to derail us, but I'm watching Peaky Blinders right now. I like the show. It's an okay show. I've got a lot of problems with it, but there's things that it does that I like. But one thing that does not work for that is Adrian Brody playing an Italian, because it's like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Everybody else is playing a normal, real-life person, and Roger Rabbit's into that, playing a cartoon Italian. It is insane what they were thinking.
Oh, dear. I can't even picture what that would be.
It's quite goofy. You can find clips, hopefully, on YouTube. I mean, okay. He's doing like he's doing a little bit of a Don Corleone, and he's always chewing on a toothpick. Yeah.
Okay, I was picturing more like, what was his name? Like Mauricio in Titanic, I think.
Oh, no. Fabricio, I think.
Fabricio. Something. It had an O.
No, that guy was more subtle.
Oh, fuck. God damn.
Let me be clear. Now, Adrian Brody's playing a New York gangster from the La Cosa Nostra. Yeah, La Cosa Nostra. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, let's get it right. We may have listeners.
Yeah.
I don't want to offend.
It's really goofy. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, Charles Grodin is a cartoon character in this. Yeah. He is chewing all the scenery, and actually he makes me laugh more often than not.
I forget how funny he is.
There's one part after they capture Kong where he strikes this particular pose where it's like...
it's pretty funny. The pictures that Jeff Bridges' character is taking of him, he's like, all right, I'm going to get you getting off the boat, and he's like walking all stoic.
He's doing the MacArthur beach landing and shit, or the leaving, rather, the I shall return, but... Jeff Bridges, on the other hand, is also in a different movie. Mm-hmm. Like nobody's in the same fucking movie in this movie, because Jeff Bridges is actually like kind of obnoxiously earnest in this movie.
Yeah,
like his earnestness was kind of grating. Like I was like, dude, calm down. You will be the dude. Like just be chill about things.
I think there might be some context for that. So this is 1976, and I'm basing this off of what I've seen from Mad Men. There's a character on there by the name of Abe, and Abe is very progressive for the time. Like he's very much into social justice, which at the time was not, there was a divide in the country. Not that there isn't someone else. Sorry. Sorry about that. But Abe in the show he doesn't have the sense of humor that everybody else has, and he's way more earnest than everybody. So I think this might be just kind of the time. Like he might be representing a character in this decade in this situation.
No, it's like what it's like post-Nixon, post-Vietnam America, rise of corporations and stuff.
Yes.
Like there was a chunk of the country that was really just tired of all the bullshit, and I could see them identifying with this, kind of like educated hippie type character. Mm-hmm. It's like he was part of the system. Now he's no longer part of the system, and he's using his knowledge to combat the system.
Well, that's what Abe is. Abe's a writer, and he's a very intelligent hippie in the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see that being an archetype that played better in 1976 than it does today.
Yeah.
Today it's just like, I don't know, like in particular his relationship with Jessica Lange in this movie is just utterly confusing.
It's very confusing.
That doesn't make math don't add up.
I was gonna say, how she got into this situation, it doesn't sound like she'd be interested in Jeff Bridges' character,
and vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah, because have you heard her talk, Jeff? Like Mr. Prescott, have you listened to her speak? She's being very serious. She believes everything that's coming out of her mouth right now. But yeah, anyway, this whole opening sequence on the docks and stuff, Jack he, like Kyle had said, he stows away on board, and we get to meet Charles Grodin, who is playing Fred S. Wilson, who is an employee of the Petrox Company, which is a fictional oil corporation. However, they do name a couple of real-life oil corporations who they're apparently in competition with. So he is setting out on this journey from Indonesia to seek oil. That's what all the people on the ship seem to understand anyway.
I think there was a gas. This was during the time of the 70s when there was a gas shortage. Either it was like at the time or right after.
Yeah, that sounds right. I know it was the 70s. I couldn't tell you what part of the 70s. So
Whenever,
I know for sure that was a thing.
Whenever The Good Guys took place, I just remembered it was in that movie.
But yeah, we meet him, and credit to him as an actor. We can tell just from his obscene clothing and his facial expressions and the way he's always gnashing his teeth and it's like, yeah, that guy's a prick. Like he hasn't even done anything yet, and I can already tell he's supposed to be an asshole.
He's got a giant head and no neck. Like he's got like a really thin neck. He has a very potato head kind of like look.
He has a very, very, very punchable face.
He is a very punchable face.
Yeah,
I don't remember him being that punchable in Clifford, and he's supposed to be kind of punchable. He's even more punchable here.
Charles Grodin's one of these really strange actors for me, anyway, where I hear his name and I picture what's his face, Michael Gross, I think.
That name sounds familiar.
Bert from Tremors. For some reason, my wires get crossed because I don't think I've actually seen Charles Grodin in many things, but for some reason I just picture that every time his name comes up, and I'm always very confused when I'm wrong. But yeah, I don't think I've ever seen him in that much, but his name comes up all the fucking time, so he must have been a very prolific actor at some point.
Yeah, Midnight Run is his big one. Beethoven, obviously. I think Midnight Run is his biggest one.
Oh, was he like the lead in that?
In what?
Midnight Run?
It looks like it. It looks like him, De Niro, Yaphet Kotto, John Ashton. Okay. So Dennis Farina. What the hell is this movie?
Sounds like a movie you should watch, Carlo.
Yeah. I could use more De Niro.
It's a hell of a cast.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a cast. But yeah, we also get one of the many character actors in this cast. I'm not going to single out everybody, but I will say that Corbin Burnson is apparently in this film, as is Joe Piscopo. And Joe Peter Cullen. Yeah, Joe Piscopo is apparently a reporter in this film. I didn't see him, but I'm just looking at the cast list right now. And John Lone plays Chinese cook. However, as far as I know, he doesn't have any lines, and he must have been in the background of a lot of shots because I would have known Ricky Tan anywhere, and I did not see Ricky Tan. Also, another trivia fact: Peter Cullen provided some of the vocalizations of King Kong. That would be the voice of Optimus Prime.
I don't like the King Kong, and I don't like the growl in this movie.
It's awful.
Yeah,
it's one of the worst parts of the presentation of Kong in this film.
I think it's overbearing, and when he's growling, it's too frequent. Like they almost overdo it. There is two other character actors I want to point out. You might have mentioned him. He was the Reverend in The Patriot. He's the scientist.
He was the next one on my list.
Yeah. And
I'm gonna butcher the name. Or do you want to take a?
I wrote down
French.
I wrote down Reverend from The Patriot.
How are you at French, Kyle?
Les incompetents.
Okay, very very good, sir. René Auberjonois.
Sounds good to me.
That's what I'm gonna say. But yeah, he plays Roy Bagley in this. I didn't even catch his name, but basically he's the chemist who is there to determine if the oil that they are attempting to discover is usable. And my God, this guy's credits are amazing. We also have covered a movie with him in it. That would be Batman Forever. He plays Dr. Burton, the doctor who is made up to look like Tim Burton, basically, at Arkham Asylum.
I don't remember him.
Well, he's in there.
Oh, and, yes, at the very end. Is he at the very, very end?
Very end.
Yeah.
Very end. And he's mostly, most of his credits are voice credits. He has a wonderful speaking voice. He has a very prim and proper way of talking, like an intellectual affect. And he does a lot of animation and stuff. And he was also, I think, one of the key members of Deep Space Nine. I think he played Odo, I think, the guy with the stretchy face.
Oh, okay, I know you're talking about. Yeah, he is one of my favorite scenes because it's how I would react to the situation, is laugh hysterically at the fact that the oil discovered will not be usable. One other character actor I want to point out was Dennis Fimple. If you notice who he is, he was Grandpa Hugo in House of a Thousand Corpses, that crazy old dude doing the stand-up comedy. He passed away like right after that movie was completed. He has a very peculiar face. He almost looks like Lon Chaney. Is it Lon Chaney who did Phantom of the Opera? Where he has like these bug eyes and his nose is kind of upturned. You recognize his face. He was also kind of an extra in Maverick. I remember he was the dude taking a shot of milk at the poker table. He's just somebody I noticed, but I'm like, this is the movie. I think this is the most I've ever seen him do in a movie.
Is he a big fella?
No, he's actually very, very short and kind of chubby.
Okay, because there's a guy in here where it kind of like, I wanted to complete the John Barry connection, because there's a guy who works on the ship who falls off a log at some point, who looked kind of like Richard Keel, Jaws from James Bond. But no, it's just some other guy with deep set cheekbones and brow ridges and stuff. But anyway, so our opening sequence, part of what makes it work is that there's like no music, and it all plays out like just like ambient sound and whatnot. And we don't get the John Barry score kicking in, and it comes in pretty strong until we have this like big establishing shot of the ship in all its glory, and Roy and Fred, so Charles Grodin, they like clink some glasses of liquor, and I think the send-off phrase is like, "Here's to the big one," and then we cut to that shot of the whole ship, and we get the John Barry music sting, and then we set sail, and we get all the opening credits, and this is where we get to see Jeff Bridges in the not so great weather. And I did kind of enjoy Charles Grodin's physical acting here, where we get to see the ship rocking, and like all the stuff sliding around on the table, and he just looks like grim death.
Yeah. I like the captain's like, did I ever tell you about the time that I ate like a whole herring? And he's like, reminds me of Amsterdam. Ate a whole herring. He's trying to say things to make this guy want to puke, and he does. He goes outside and pukes.
Oh, that's what's so great, though, is he literally goes outside. Yeah. So when he comes back, he's drenched in like his dress shirt and stuff. But yeah, we do get to see that Jeff Bridges gets out from his hidey hole and somehow enters the ship. I don't know how, but pretty much immediately after this, we get a briefing sequence, which in King Kong 33, I think it took a little while longer to get this.
It took like a half hour to get to that.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked by that. I didn't remember that upon rewatching it, but yeah, it does take its time. Not like the Peter Jackson version. That takes a good solid hour, but yeah, we get a briefing where it's similar circumstances. The major difference between this and the 33 version is that we're on an expedition for oil, not to make a film. And also Charles Grodin's characterization is a little bit different, where the film director in the first one was portrayed as kind of courageous, actually. Mm-hmm. Like, he was bullheaded and kind of a dick, but for the most part, he meant well, and he was shown to be like have a level head in a crisis. Whereas Charles Grodin's like, he's a chicken shit heel, as they'd say in wrestling. But he's not very capable. But I like his what do you call that? It's like a
ascot?
Scar. It's he has like an ascot or something. Yeah. And like a traditional like safari gear and stuff while he's doing this briefing. But it's typical 1970s slideshow, and apparently it's a similar situation to the 30s, where we've set sail without really disclosing what we're doing. And I like the way the fog bank is handled in this movie.
I do too.
I mean, the concept is introduced here in the slideshow, and the idea is we have a series of photographs of the same part of the ocean, which is uncharted for the most part, where there's a fog bank that, even after 35 years or something, is stable. It hasn't moved, which means it's not just gas on the ocean. It's probably an island. So this is an uncharted island, and based on the vapor composition from like satellite photos, it's the 70s. We're talking about satellites and shit. We're assuming Keyword assuming that there's oil here.
Yeah. He's given this brief. I do like this guy, the dude with the like Cro-Magnon jaw, like this big dude. And
that's the Jaws looking guy.
Yeah, Joe. His name is Joe. He answers one of the questions, and I like how Charles Grodin's like, "Good job, Joe. I'm actually surprised you got that." It's like, because you look like you can't read, man. So, he doesn't say that, but I feel like that was like, I'm actually surprised that you picked up on that. Good job. But yeah, Jeff Bridges kind of slinks in, and he just kind of interrupts. He's like, they think there's probably a fucking big gorilla on there or something. And they're like, wait, who the fuck are you, and what are you talking about? But yeah, he goes through this whole spiel. Like, as soon as he starts talking, you're like, okay, I'm not buying this, dude. He starts quoting stuff from like the 1600s. Like, there's like a shipwreck, and guys that made it out said that there was something big there. And Charles Grodin's like, what does this have to do with anything? Who are you?
He uses one of my favorite descriptors. He calls him a joker. He's like, who is this joker? Like, it's not part of my vocabulary, but I have some people in my life who it is, and I always titter like a schoolgirl whenever I hear people get called a joker.
I go with jabroni.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
that one hasn't been my vocabulary since I was about 13, though.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But basically Jack announces himself to everybody. Charles Grodin is none too happy about it because he's like, "You're a stowaway on my ship?" Oh, yeah. And I like how he's like, he has this fixation on his shirt where he's like, "You see this shit? See what I have to put up with?"
I didn't hear it. The neighbors upstairs.
She's singing.
Shut the fuck up!
No happiness in this household.
Start brooming.
No expressions of happiness.
Yeah, start brooming.
I do want to broom it someday.
Shut up. Yeah.
Godzilla, shut up. Shut up.
Shut up.
Anyway, he has this fixation on his shirt because he's wearing one of the crewmen's uniforms. He's like, "Where'd he get this shirt? Why is he wearing your shirt?" Like that's like company budget right there. He can't be wearing that.
It's not hard to come by those things. Yeah, he thinks he's a corporate spy. And that's why he's like, you're here for other reasons. You're here as a corporate spy.
Yeah, he's assuming that it's like some corporate espionage shit going on. And he's trying to steal the site from them, essentially. Because there is a lot of talk throughout the movie of like, oh, we got to get there now because it'll get poached or something, basically. It'll get yanked out from under us. But they take him into a back room and interrogate him, and they take like all of his papers. He does like have all of his passports and like papers in order. And the captain even does try to like get him out of it by being like, yeah, like I did buy some charts in town. Like what he's saying about how he discovered our expedition, it checks out. And Charles Grodin's like, nah. Put him I like how he's like, he's like, put him in the brig. But I like that there's like another detail. And similar to telling the big guy, like, that's very insightful. Good job, Joe. Yeah. Like, similar to that, maybe it was ad-libbed or something because like, they gave him a sandwich.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
And as they're taking him away, he's like, "No, leave the
sandwich." It's so good because he's about to take a bite of I think he even gets like a bite of it, and he's like, "No. You'll get your sandwich." It's a real bitchy move. You'll get the sandwich.
It's like you're punishing a child.
Yeah.
No, leave the sandwich.
I mean, it was a white bread turkey sandwich, man. I mean, it wasn't going to give you much, but it was going to give you something.
Yeah, some American cheese.
Yeah.
You know it's good because it's American.
Probably has a Miracle Whip on it, which is disgusting.
I've never had, but it looks awful.
It's not good.
It makes me sad just to look at the bottom.
So, what happens here? I have my notes, fucking hippie, and then use your glasses.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So
he gets out somehow.
They're like escorting him to a different part of the ship. So we're taking Jeff Bridges, aka Jack, and we go out to the deck, and it's magically daytime. I guess night passed and everything. And he just looks out into the ocean, and he says, "Is that something? I think I see something." And nobody's listening to him, and he ends up like breaking free of the two dudes who are holding him, and he runs to a different part of the ship, and there's a guy with binoculars
Mm-hmm.
looking out just in a random direction, pretending to be busy, like you do. And then he tells the guy, "Use your glasses."
Trevor, it's very important that you pointed that out. While on a ship working in some kind of nautical job, it is imperative that you look busy or someone will make you busy. So yes.
Yeah, we had a army guy at a place you and I both worked at one point, who used the term shamming very frequently, and that was probably the most important thing he taught me, was that shamming is military life, basically.
It really is, because a lot of times there's nothing to do, but they will make up things for you to do.
Yeah, it's like filmmaking. Hurry up and wait.
Get paid, motherfucker.
That's right. But yeah, instead of binoculars or whatever you want to call them, binocs or whatever, he uses the term glasses.
Use your
He
glasses.
Says, use your glasses.
Apparently that's a term, glassing. Glassing is a term, I guess, used by some hunters. I learned this from your mom's house. Used for looking through binoculars. So maybe, yeah, it is a term.
Hey man, use your glasses.
Use your glasses, man.
Use your glasses, man. There's a hot lady out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this is where we meet the lady.
When she shows up, I legit was like, holy Testicle Tuesday. Like,
she's a babe.
She's a babe. Yeah, because she just hots her way onto the screen.
I mean, first shot she's in, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
Transparent dress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dino knew what he was doing.
Yeah. He was not stupid.
Dino's no stupid.
He's no stupid.
Dino's no stupid.
He knows what's sense.
Yeah, first fucking shot she's in. She's wet. She's in a nightgown.
You know what?
That already works.
In the original King Kong, there's actually transparent, which is shocking that it happened.
Yeah, in the 1930s. Yeah. Yeah, there was a little bit of transparency. Here it's a black dress, and yet it's still too thin to the point that we can see something.
Do you think, because I would bet you $1 billion Dino has watched that original King Kong movie and noticed that part of the King Kong movie. Do you think that this is an ode? He's like, no, it has to be as detailed as possible to the original, so she has to wear that.
No, this movie bears so little resemblance to the original. My theory, Kyle, is that he was probably quote unquote supervising the wardrobe department and scoring the fabric with like a nail file.
Oh, her wardrobe was picked out by a perv. Yeah, so it makes sense. Yeah.
Kyle and I actually talked about this before we recorded. We didn't get into it too much, but this is a very horny movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, inarguably horny movie. This movie is much more concerned with titillation than it is action. Which is kind of disappointing when your movie is called King Kong and is one of the most expensive movies of its day and was advertised with state-of-the-art animatronic special effects. And that's but it's just about a horny monkey and a horny lady.
Yeah, but it's what are you getting at, though? That's what's kind of puzzling about the film. It's what is the underlying tone here? What's the message with this?
I don't think there really is a message. And when we get to the very last shot of the movie, I think that's the most confusing part, actually, where it's I know I'm supposed to be feeling something, but none of the breadcrumbs you laid down earlier in the film add up to that.
So wait, you're saying that beauty killed beast in this movie is, hey, people come. That's the whole thing in the movie. It's well, what did you get out of that? People come,
Kyle, we learned in talking just now that Joe Piscopo was in the cast. You couldn't have had him just sidle up to Jessica Lange and just say that and then walk off while she's crying.
As Frank Sinatra, yeah.
Yeah, as
hey,
Frank
baby,
Sinatra.
some people come.
I'm out. But yeah, this is our introduction to Dwan, who is Jessica Lange, and she is in just an inflatable raft in the middle of the goddamn Pacific Ocean. We did actually get some radio chatter earlier in the film.
I didn't catch that.
Pointing to, yeah, it's a small detail. It's one of those somebody in the logistics department of the script editing and stuff was We should probably like lay down some breadcrumbs for that. Like, we should explain why she's here.
Yeah.
But there is like some radio chatter. The movie doesn't draw any attention to it, but they do have like some radio chatter talking about a yacht that's in distress in the neighboring waters. So our ship at sea, the oil expedition, isn't making a move to like do a rescue or anything, but they're aware of it. So put two and two together, her life raft came from that yacht. So they retrieve her. The music swoons. It's very romantic, which is a little weird when there's 30 sweaty dudes ogling an unconscious woman with a see-through dress.
Yeah. With the hugest boners, yeah.
With the... yeah. I don't know how that guy made it up that rope ladder. But get tangled. Got extra appendages and stuff.
You got a splinter.
Be like the SWAT guy in Die Hard with the rose bush. Ow! But I will give them credit for this, though. Her dress does dry out in the next scene, so that's enough of that. That's enough suggested nipple. And we carry her into like somebody's quarters and put her on a bed. And this sequence actually it's pretty modest. Like I like that.
Except for Joe's gonna rape her if they don't butt in. Are you kidding me?
But they're there, Kyle.
Thank God.
They take care. They put him on a goddamn leash.
They're like, does anybody know CPR? He's like, I know a little bit of CPR, but I need all you guys to leave the room right now. And they're like, do you have any credentials, Joe? And he's like, nah. And they're like, you rascal. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but he does back off. And the captain and his like first mate or whatever, Carnahan, who is played by a character actor who has been in a millionth, Ed Lauder.
Oh yeah,
I really like this guy.
He's the coach. I don't know if you saw.
God damn it!
God damn it!
Not another teen movie.
Yeah, actually playing opposite H. John Benjamin in that scene. That's H. John Benjamin. Yeah.
Oh, God damn it!
You're lucky to be in a goddamn uniform. God damn it!
No, I've always liked him. He's done a million movies. He's one of those guys.
Yeah.
But Ed Lauder is his name, in case you're curious. The two of them are like tending to her, and then I believe Charles Grodin gets the idea in his head that like, Jack has like a PhD. Maybe he did some doctoring at some point. I don't really follow the logic, being as he's like a paleontologist or something.
Yeah.
But he does actually allow Jeff Bridges to leave his quarters to go like check her vitals and stuff. And then we get like a several minute scene where she's introduced to us proper as a character and not just eye candy. And it's actually kind of compelling. Like her dialogue is kind of fascinating because she's obviously a little shell shocked because apparently the yacht like totally went down in the storm or something. But just her demeanor, she's so totally out of it.
Yeah.
And you think it's because she's in shock, but it's also because she's kind of an airhead.
Yeah, yeah, she's Adam Sandler in Airheads, just kind of like,
Yeah, she's up in outer space. No drugs required. That's just how she is. But they're trying to like ask, do you remember anything? And she's just like providing like a lot of not very useful information. But I told Kyle this before we started recording. Jessica Lange basically has her own light kit in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
They take very, very, very special care with how she's lit in this movie. Most of the time, actually. There's some hideous lighting in this movie from time to time. But in this scene, she's got like really sharp eye light and the angle she's shot from. Like, they're really just trying to make her look as good as possible.
Yeah.
And her performance is pretty solid here, where she has this weird joke about what was it? Deep Throat. She was saved by Deep Throat.
Yeah, and Deep Throat this time, was it the like Deep Throat movie that she's referring to?
That's what she's referring to.
Because my mind went to X-Files. I'm like, how the fuck? She couldn't have watched X-Files. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's not out yet.
No, it was the most what's financially successful pornographic film in American history or something.
Yeah, I wanted to. It was. I want to watch it because of its cultural significance. Like, I'm just kind of curious as to what it is. But yeah, I've never watched it. But yeah, it's. I think it was like the first not mainstream porno, but back when they had pornos in movie theaters, like it was on the marquee, like it was a big deal.
No, it's known. It's a part of American history, not just as a film, but also for the Watergate scandal, for the name being taken by the people involved in that. But it's available on Blu-ray. I remember when we did a catching up on Blu-ray together, you and me, not me and Brad from Cinema Speak podcast. We did see it on the release calendar one day. So if you really want to see it, you can.
Not for this. I don't think we need to do it for this platform. But
I'm not gonna fucking do a review of Deep Throat. Really appreciate the technique.
This week we're doing Deep Throat for some fucking reason. No, but I was thinking skeezy 90s sexual thrillers. That could be a fun month.
I would really enjoy that because there's too
Michael
many
Douglas.
of them.
It's mostly
it's mostly Michael Douglas. Yeah, but yeah, she explains to us that her name is Dwan, and it's like Dawn, but I moved some letters around and it's more distinct. It's like, okay, and she's really taken with Jack, because the captain outs him as the person who spotted her on the sea. But her joke about Deep Throat was that she was on the yacht in the Pacific because she met a guy who wanted to put her in a movie in Hong Kong. And then apparently he was screening Deep Throat on the yacht, and she wasn't interested, so she was up on deck, and apparently she had an accident and fell off the ship before it went down.
That's the best case scenario for what situation she was in. If you were to tell somebody today that same story, you're like, holy shit, you did what? My God.
Yeah, I don't think I want to watch Deep Throat with 30 obscenely rich people in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Don't get on a boat with anybody. Yeah.
Yeah, boats are sketch, man. People with boats are sketch.
Yeah.
Because people with boats who make movies in Hong Kong just casually, there's something up there.
Just don't get on boats with people unless you really know the person. Even then, keep an eye out,
But yeah, so we have established that both of our sexy leads have made eyes at each other. They're kind of taken with each other. And we get a montage of just her hanging out on the ship. Like all the sailors are like giving her clothes and stuff. And she's queen for a day. And we get to see Jessica Lange's butt because shower sequence and we also get to see her like hanging out with Jeff Bridges and stuff and the rest of the crew, and it seems like everything's going well, and it's just music. I don't think there's any dialogue here.
There's nothing going on.
Yeah, there's nothing going on.
There's nothing going on.
Finally, though, we get to where we're going, and this was where the aforementioned fog comes into play, and I really, this is so simple, but it looks great on film.
It does look really good.
Yeah, because we get this shot. It's like a rotating shot, like surveying the entire deck, and off to the side, like just on the water, there's this huge fog wall, and it's an actual physical element on the set or the location that they're filming at. It's like there's actual fog there, and it looks fantastic. You would have expected this to be like a matte shot or something, or a composite of some sort, but no, they just put fucking dry ice on the water apparently, and it looks fantastic. But here's where we're getting ready to penetrate the fog to see if there is an island there. We've already used the radar to determine that there's landmass there, but we're trying to see if we can land there. So Dwan buddies up to Fred, Charles Grodin, and kind of has to really seriously twist his arm to get him to allow her to come to the beach with them. I did like that she's like grabbing him by the arm and like kisses him on the cheek. And by the way, part of her story when we're first introduced to her, there's like a very not so subtle element of sadness to the way she's delivering this story, where you can tell that she's kind of been through the ringer in her life and has maybe had a lot of opportunities go tits up. So she's kind of just trying to make it through life. Like you can tell she's been run over by the life train a few times. But I like that Jeff Bridges now has a deal with Charles Grodin where he's like the official expedition photographer, and this is how he can like get out of being, I don't know, thrown in prison or something for stowing away on the ship. But he's taking a picture of the two of them together, and Charles Grodin's like, "Whoa, I'm a married man, Jack."
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because like he means it. I'm pretty sure he actually means it, and he's trying his best to be okay with it. But yeah, we head to the beach and we get like a slightly dramatic scene, not very, of them just like taking a landing craft out to the beach, with the chemist and the first mate. Then we get our beach landing, and holy shit, it's the island of Kauai.
Yeah.
Because why the fuck not?
I recognize...
Worked for Jurassic Park, may as well work for King Kong.
I say I recognize this beach from 6 Days, 7 Nights. I'm like, that's where Harrison Ford and Anne Heche run up the little hill there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a fantastic location. It looks gorgeous. The whole movie, actually, I think from a cinematography standpoint, just the landscapes, some of the shots they got of the island look phenomenal.
Yeah.
And like there's like one shot in particular where they pull the camera all the way out, probably with like a helicopter or something.
It was a drone.
Well, that's the low budget filmmaker's best friend these days. I always like when they didn't pony up the cash for like the good drone, so like it has the fisheye effect on the lens when they shoot with the drone. It like I said, it's for like lower budget films where they, or maybe it's like they're using a drone that maneuvers in such a fashion where they could only put like an inconsistent lens on there or something. But it always like takes me out of it for a second, where it's like, oh, it's a drone shot. It's just like interesting. But yeah, they land on the beach, and Jack takes a bunch of photos of Dwan and of Charles Grodin doing the big man on campus walk as he steps off the boat.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a whole lot happens. That's like gonna be a thing that we say probably every 5 minutes in this discussion.
Pretty much moving forward, not a lot's gonna happen, or it takes a long time for something to happen. We have to get to the natives because it has to happen in a King Kong movie. We have to have the natives. The suits that they're wearing are really creepy. The one like they almost,
the ghost sheet ones.
Yeah, the ghost sheet ones are scary.
Yeah, they look cool.
Yeah, we're about to sacrifice our young woman to King Kong, obviously, and we have the dance going on. We have the witch doctor pelvic thrusting like crazy, which I was like, wow, that's a lot of pelvic thrusting. Like, okay, this is kind of funny. Like in the middle of his pelvic thrusting, he's just like dancing around. And he just like does like a triple take almost. I might have pulled off the Patrick Stewart quadruple take. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I have seen that. Kyle, you did send that to me at one point, and it's beautiful.
It's really good. I think it's a quadruple take. But he stops him dead in his tracks, and they're like, "Wait a minute, he's stopping!" And then he just like starts pointing. I love Charles going like, "Oh shit!" Like he spotted us. And immediately, like, they come up the hill and like, all right, if they try to run at us, shoot the guns in the air. And he comes up and he just starts yelling at them, the guy, and they're like, what does he want? And he like kind of waves down to the village, and like 6 ladies come up, and like immediately it's like, we want to trade the ladies for that. They're not having it, obviously, and they end up getting out of the situation. I think they just start shooting in the air, and they run away back to the ship.
Yeah, we'll get to it in just a second, but a couple of details I feel are worth pointing out. Before we get to the natives, we encounter the wall, the iconic King Kong wall.
This is what I have. Which I have the note. God, it must suck to be this wrong all the time. For Charles Grodin.
Yeah, there's a running gag in the movie where Charles Grodin makes a lot of loud, boisterous statements that are blatantly false, and Jeff Bridges is always there to just tear him right the fuck down.
And he handles it really well. Charles Grodin.
He does.
He takes it so well. Yeah.
He must be really accustomed
used to that.
I mean, he said he's a married man. I'm sure in that household, this is kind of the dynamic.
Yeah, I'm in a long-term relationship. I've been wrong a lot. So at this point, it's just kind of like, what am I going to be wrong about today? I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to let it happen.
Yeah, correction. You've been wrong a lot, and you've been made aware of it. But yeah, you can tell he takes it in stride in such a way that's like, yeah, this is this man's life.
Yes.
And it doesn't help that he's a short guy with a big ego. The math adds up, put it that way. But yeah, we get a very solid matte painting of the giant wall, very similar to the original King Kong. And Jeff Bridges points out that, oh, well, there's our evidence of civilization. And also, it looks like it's been repaired recently. So, Charles Grodin, your theories of there not being people here, very wrong.
Yeah.
But I also like that Charles Grodin's like very insistent, and then he's like, no, there's totally no people here. This is an ancient wall. And then we hear drums. And it's like, well, shit. But, yeah, other detail, it's a small thing, but it's something that I started to notice just in this watching of the film, is that the lighting in this movie is grossly inconsistent. In particular, there's a lot of like bounce board lighting where you can tell that we're filming outdoors. We're probably filming in a location that maybe it's difficult to like run, like maybe it's difficult to get equipment there or something. But during the scene where they're watching the villagers and stuff, we have Jeff Bridges observing and Jessica Lange's beside him, and we just see this like jittery light on both of their faces. That's like it's like you're like reflecting light off of a mirror, and your hand's not steady or something,
or it's windy outside.
Or it's windy outside or something. So your light source isn't stable, and it looks really messy and shitty. And when you have two really good-looking people on camera that are being made to not look as good because of lighting, there is a serious problem. Especially when this movie is as horny as it is, and that's basically all you get in terms of entertainment value. But yeah, how would you rank this of the King Kong movies we've watched so far? In terms of like native interactions, like in terms of like successful versus not so successful interactions, or like collisions of like the civilized world versus Skull Island natives, how would you rank this?
I think this might. We don't spend a lot of time with the natives, and I think that's the plus. I'm like, I think this is probably the best just because of that. It's like we're not spending a ton of time here.
Yeah. I want to say this was the most hostile interaction that we've had of all the movies, because in King Kong versus Godzilla, you know, we cleared things up with the radio, no shots were fired. The original 1933 one, it was hostile for sure, but we talked a lot, and then we just left. In this one, though, we have to like shoot into the air and run. Like you can't walk off Skull Island, you gotta run. So this is an example of it not doing it right, I guess.
Yeah.
But Kyle, I don't know if you took note of this, but we get back to the ship, and like all the like Charles Grodin and his gang of fools, they're all trying to figure out a way to basically rob the islanders of their oil, which is something that we observed.
Yeah.
There were pools of like black viscous liquid in the village, so Charles Grodin thinks he has what he needs there.
I've abandoned my child. Yeah.
I've abandoned my boy.
I've abandoned my boy.
I've abandoned my child. That's a very watchable movie, despite being very long and very, very heavy. It's somehow very watchable.
It's after you get done watching No Country for Old Men, you're like, now I want to watch There Will Be Blood because it's just right there.
Yeah, I could see that working out. I haven't tried it myself, but I'm due for a rewatch of probably both of those, especially No Country.
I did No Country. I think I'm going to do There Will Be Blood pretty soon, or I'm going to finally get around to Phantom Thread. Who knows?
I mean, if you're up for trying something new, I would recommend.
You know I am. Oh, anyway,
that's the name of the show. But I just wanted to point out, like, I don't know if you took note of this at all, but Jessica Lange smoking. Did this jump out at you at all?
It did, because she lights a match and she like really holds it for a long time, and I'm like, it's gonna burn her finger. Like, you need to light that match. Her technique, I didn't really pay attention to.
Yeah, I think she has like kind of like Metropolitan way where it's like, are you smoking or are you just holding it?
Well, she definitely smokes in Cape Fear, so it is possible she might be a smoker. I'm not sure.
I mean, it was the 70s. I'm pretty sure most people smoke.
Everybody smokes.
Yeah, everybody.
And you can smoke everywhere.
I just thought it was interesting because Kyle, like, if you're not aware of this, listeners, Kyle Kyle has a thing about smoking in movies. That it's something that catches his eye. It's something that sometimes compels his own actions in his daily life, depending on how good the technique is,
let's put it this
or
way.
how sumptuous the visuals are.
Peaky Blinders, they're smoking and drinking the whole time. I have cigars now. I have little cigars now, so
well, there you
very
go.
impressed. There is something I want to point out from here, where so Grodin is wanting to get the oil, basically, and Jeff Bridges is still convinced that wall is to keep out something, and he thinks it's a big, some kind of big animal that's undiscovered. And he has a line. He says, "Even you, an eco-rapist, wouldn't destroy an undiscovered animal." And I'm like, dude, Charles Grodin is a white dude in the 70s with a mustache. He will destroy anything to be rich. Anything. He will do anything in his power to be rich.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Disney movies and such taught me that lesson in the 90s when things were a little bit more sanitized and cleaned up for like family consumption and stuff. But you better believe in the 70s they were ready to go, like just getting down and dirty with this business. But yeah, basically she goes out smoking. We have some lovey-dovey talk between her and Jeff Bridges. And then, similar to the 1933 Kong, she is abducted by the villagers.
I had a problem with this. So yeah, his plan is like, I'm just taking their supplies and I'm just gonna steal their boat and I'm just gonna get away. I'm like, well, where the fuck are you gonna go? Like, you don't go to the hostile island. Like, you're gonna be stuck there. I'm like, it's not gonna go well. I'm like, what's your plan? Are you gonna go to the island and find the animal first and come back? I just didn't understand what his plan was.
He says he's going into the island interior to do investigating or something. I was like, okay, that doesn't sound that doesn't sound safe to me, but okay.
A lot of risks with that, but okay.
Well, I started to like theorize about his character. That's like, are they doing a thing where it's like he just doesn't like people very much? Like, part of the reason he's in the field work, he's in the type of work that he is that he's not particularly fond of the modern world and the people in it.
I think he's particularly not fond of this person in particular and oil companies in general. So yeah, I think that he's not for exploiting this island for that.
Yeah, he's a little bit preachy in this movie, just a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's abducted, very much similar to the original King Kong. But yeah, Jack was intending to steal a boat in the middle of the night to head off to the island himself because he knows that the Petrox people are just going to go there and probably shoot everybody.
Yeah.
Like,
that's exactly.
Words here.
Just mow them down like Rambo. That's exactly what they're going to do.
I mean, they use the phrase fireworks show for the plan as to how to remove the villagers from the equation. I don't think all those bullets are going up into the air. Have you seen Joe? Like, Joe is itching for an opportunity to start some shit. Yeah. But yeah, they take her to the island. And, by the way, our chemist has pointed out that, hey, Fred, you shouldn't radio the company that you hit the big one just yet because we don't even know if that's oil yet.
Yeah.
But Charles Grodin gets a little ahead of himself and sends them like a telegram or something saying, hey, I hit the big one. Roll out the red carpets when I get home. It's like, okay, now you've created expectations. That's probably not a good idea. But we get like a very extended, like probably like 8-minute sequence of just Dwan being, drugged and carried off to the pillars or whatever.
I get like you're kind of matching the sequence from the original, but all you have to do is knock her out, have her passed out in the chains, have her come to and start screaming. You don't have to have her swaying. It's 8 minutes of her just swaying back and forth, like, oh gosh, I'm so out of it. Stupid.
Yeah, it goes on and on and on. It's curious because there are some impressive elements here. I mean, this was the 70s, so there was a particular era of film that we've since moved away from, where the way you showed your budget, the way you showed how much resources you had behind your production, was putting bodies and giant sets on the screen and shooting them in his like super duper widescreen and stuff.
Okay, so I might have been reading into this too much because of the sexual nature, because we get the dude pelvic thrusting like crazy again. Locking the gate. Now, was this a flex? I have this in like, is this a flex or is this kind of sexual at the same time? We are really, really focusing in on the insertion of locking this gate. And I'm like, I don't know. It felt so odd to me.
Well, I mean, as we often say, nothing is in a film by accident.
Yes.
This is a tremendously horny film.
Yes.
Also, it needs to be said, The Towering Inferno, same director, also a massively horny film. I mean, for fuck's sake, you got Robert Wagner in the cast. He's banging everything behind the scenes.
I'm gonna make a not a gross generalization. No, this may sound racist. But in The Godfather, I don't know if you remember the wedding sequence in the beginning. They have that old man come up and sing a song, and I always wondered what he was singing. But the song he was singing was basically, if you're gonna marry a guy, you're gonna, I guess, do what he wants or whatever. It's like, if you marry a butcher, you're gonna take his meat. Like, it's like a big innuendo song, and they're all like laughing because it's an old man singing this stuff. And I guess it was like a traditional like Italian song. Having an Italian producer at the helm of this, that's why I was like,
more than likely be open to some ideas that mainstream Hollywood producers probably would shy away from.
I'm just picturing Coppola watching. He's like, this is grotesque. Like, I can't believe he would put something like this in this movie.
Well, I mean, Kyle, normally this wouldn't happen. I'm not actually very big on like innuendo when it comes to my personal sense of humor, but I will back you on this because the gate, like the latch for the big doors, they
lubed it up. That's what.
Yes,
I didn't even want to say it. I was just trying to say.
I have to call it as I sees it, yeah. And yes, they loop the shaft as they're putting it through the rings.
I'm not trying to be vulgar here. I'm like, this is a legit question. I'm like, this just seems like a weird.
No,
shot
I think you're right, Kyle. Nothing's in a film by accident, and the math adds up. You don't have to be a genius.
Because like you were saying with flexing, I'm like, this doesn't really seem like that big of a flex. Like it doesn't really seem like that big a deal. The actual wall that you built is the flex. I mean, this could be an extension of that, but anyway, sorry.
Anyway. Well, now you've got me thinking about all the times in which the door is opened and unlocked. So we have this when we're locking it, and we lube it up for that. But then later on, it gets pulled like halfway out, but then it gets put back, and then it gets taken. It gets insane back to back. Like it gets like closed. And then halfway pulled out, and then closed again.
All right, I think we're gonna go with I think we're doing something sexual
just
here.
Like take all the bullshit we just said and just say yeah. Anyway, they drug her and they tie her to the thing, much like they did in 1933. Although I seem to remember the drugging not really being as explicit. Like in this one, they actually have like a bowl of some stuff, some white fluid that she is drugged with. Yep.
Innuendos aren't your sense of humor. Mike Myers is like a pillar of our cinematic cornerstone.
I mean, it's not that I don't laugh at it. It's just I don't make those jokes.
Yeah, because
I'm the guy, like
adult.
we've said, like we said before. Like I have the tool set, but it makes me a stronger person to not use it. It's like being Superman, where it's like I could smash the world, but I'm not gonna because I'm Superman.
We get our King Kong entrance, by the way.
Over 50 minutes in.
50 minutes in, but I will tell you, it was worth it. This was probably the best King Kong entrance we've had so far.
Yeah, it's exactly as you said you wanted from the 1933 one, where we get like bits and pieces of him in gradual reveal, where it's like we hear crashing, we see the trees coming down from his perspective, we see his eyes, just like pieces of him.
Yeah.
And then he gets in front of her, and we have this really cool reveal where when he finally gets up to her, she's got her head down, and then she looks up and up and up and up and up, and then she lets out her scream, which, being in a King Kong movie as the leading lady, I'm sure you got to do that as part of your audition. Although not if Dino De Laurentiis is involved. He probably just looks at a picture in a magazine that you shot 5 years ago and says, I want that one.
You know who has an amazing scream in a movie, and I'm wondering if she had to do it in the audition, was Maid Marian and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, the Kevin Costner one. Because Robin makes his entrance at the king's wedding, and she goes, Robin! like just screams really loud. I'm like, that was a fucking excellent scream.
Jesus.
I'll find the clip. Don't worry.
I've had to rewatch that one for a while now.
Yeah.
I've never liked that movie, but the marketing hype train for it was so big that it's like burned into my memory as something that I should like, but I just don't.
I do, just because it was one that we grew up. It was Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, then we go straight into Terminator 2. So just for the double feature for the day, excellent.
Well, and I'm sure Three Musketeers probably is a branch off from that somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did that one a long time ago.
Yeah.
Very good episode. One of my favorites, honestly.
Yeah, go back and check it out.
Yeah, it's shocking that I can remember it because it was long enough ago. But anyway, we get introduced to the King Kong in this film over 50 minutes in, which is about 10 minutes, maybe 8 minutes later than has been the case in all the other films we've covered. And this is where we discover the type of technology that we're using to render the big gorilla this time around. So 1933, stop motion animation. 1962, King Kong vs. Godzilla, suitmation. In 1976, we're back to suitmation. However, we have a highly articulated animatronic head on the gorilla suit, and also the gorilla suit is far more detailed, and the proportions in particular are much more realistic. Like the general bulk and like musculature of the build for the gorilla is much more accurate. Rick Baker and Carlo Rombaldi. There were multiple people who did the suitmation effects and the animatronics. I don't know who is attributed to doing what. However, all of them are critically acclaimed, and all of them are an institution within Hollywood. Their contribution has been massive.
From what I read on IMDb, it looked. I think that there were two makeup art, like two of the guys, like you come up with the suit, whoever has the better suit wins, and Rick Baker won. So he was the only one in the suit, but as far as the animatronics go, I'm not entirely sure.
I think I've heard Rick Baker in an interview say that Rombaldi, he like credited Rombaldi with doing some of the facial animatronics. So I don't know if that means he was the puppeteer or if he built the damn thing, but yes, Rick Baker is generally the person wearing the suit in this film, and so those are his eyes. However, he's wearing contact lenses that make his irises bigger, which actually look pretty good. They look fairly convincing.
I was a little harsh on this because I went from the King Kong 33 to watching a clip from this movie. I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks ridiculous. But actually watching it, I'm like, it actually looks pretty good. The problem I have with it is he spent no time studying gorilla movements or any kind of like what a primate would do. It's a dude walking.
Yeah, the way I described it was it's the Chris Farley, do you know where the weight room is? Walk. He just kind of throws his shoulders back and like walks like his hips are 5 feet wide.
Yeah.
Presumably to make room for a gigantic dong.
You know who actually would have probably done a really good job? Your boy that does Godzilla. Is he kind of bow-legged? Like his stance?
Oh, Haruo Nakajima? The guy who wore the suit?
Yeah, the guy who wore the suit. I think he was.
He is bow-legged.
I think
he's pretty
short.
Small.
Yeah.
And in 1976, I think he was done. Honestly, because the Godzilla series, the Showa era, wrapped in 1975, and I think that was his last involvement with the Godzilla series.
I think he would have done a good job because I think his build would have fit better for the suit. I don't know if his movements, like I think he would have at least studied the movements a little bit. Well,
Kyle, not to completely derail us too late. We've already been talking about cocks and Peaky Blinders and everything in between.
I'm basing this on his body type.
I would have to disagree because having watched so many of the guy's films, he has a particular way of moving that's too dynamic. He has too much charisma in the way he moves. Where he's not like an Andy Serkis where he'll spend like years of his life just fucking hanging out at a zoo and perfecting the art of moving like a fucking gorilla. Nakajima like had, I think, some form of martial arts background because that man can ukemi to like till the ends of the earth. That's like a defensive roll kind of. So like rolling with the momentum. Like if you get kicked over or like
Yeah.
tossed or something. You just like roll with it.
Parkour. Yeah.
Yeah, parkour. So, like when you go over the back of a couch or something, you have to yell that out. But it's a rule. But his style of movement is very theatrical. It doesn't remind you of like an animal's movement. It's too showy, I guess. He probably could have been a bang up pro wrestler, but he found a different calling. But what I was saying about derailing things though was I was just curious. What do you have a preference in how your King Kong should move? Because in the 1930s they made some attempts to have him move kind of like a gorilla, but as we said on that episode, Willis O'Brien also had a background in boxing, and some of the choreography of some of those dinosaur fights, you can kind of see it. There's some like clinching and like closed fist punches that kind of look similar to grappling of some sort. But 1962 King Kong, we have, it's Godzilla style suitmation, so it has that kind of dynamic theatrical quality to the way he's moving. This one, he's upright. His knuckles never once really touch the ground. Peter Jackson in the 2000s, that's all it is. Andy Serkis is just a gorilla in that movie.
Yeah.
Like his proportions, the way he moves like a gorilla, he's just doing a gorilla impression. And then we get to Skull Island, and he's a biped again. He's upright with his shoulders back, with his chest puffed out. He's not doing a gorilla impression anymore. Do you have a preference, you think?
I need a balance, because gorillas do walk on all fours, but they can also walk on their hind legs. It's not for very long generally, but they do. And that little bit of a balance. I think it's the suit itself. And that's why I mentioned your boy who's the Godzilla guy, is because somebody who's short with bow legs, I think would have been right for this. I don't know how big Rick Baker is. I'm assuming he's a average sized dude.
It's irrelevant when you're wearing a big suit like this.
But the thing with gorilla is that the torso is very big. Like they have a very big torso, and the legs are not in proportion with the upper body. So
they often have like a bubble gut too.
Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, not so much the gut. I think just having it look a bit more in the body like a gorilla, and having him move a little bit more like a gorilla would have helped with this, because I think that the actual face itself is pretty good.
The face is the most impressive part of it.
Yeah.
It's really pivotal to this film, because like we've kind of basically said it a few times now, like this movie isn't terribly entertaining, but the way it's structured, it's more of a romance than an action film, and the romance wouldn't work even 1% if he couldn't emote, and he certainly can, which is very impressive for 1976.
Well, and I think now Jurassic Park's coming into mind. It's like part of the way the reason that movie works is working with limitations, and I think maybe with this film, the novelty of it was what they had to focus on, and because there was only so much you could do with what they had.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a Octoman dilemma. I brought that up before, where Octoman, I think Rick Baker worked on Octoman. I think he did. I think it was like one of his first movies. I haven't looked it up, but I'm almost positive that's a production note. But the Octoman dilemma is where you have a monster in your movie and you fuck it all up by having the monster like in daylight for 80% of the movie, just like walking around, just doing mundane things like drinking a soda and like flipping tables and stuff. It's like, okay, how can I be scared of something when it has no mystery to it? Like there's no technique in the lighting, and instead of like popping up every once in a while, it's just there all the time. This movie kind of has that problem where like the mystery of Kong is once he shows up, they're pretty brazen about just like having him on camera, like big as life and twice as ugly all the time.
It was Rick Baker. It was him in that movie. And
Octoman.
Funny enough, he worked on the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes, where there is excellent ape. Tim Roth crushes it as the bad ape in that movie.
Yeah, absolutely, he does. That's actually one of the performances that kind of made me really love him, because he's like the only person in that whole cast where it's like, that was him.
Yeah.
Like never in a million years would I have expected that.
That movie sucks ass, but him in that role is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. But yeah, Rick Baker's always had a fascination with gorillas in particular, not just apes. But early in his career, like in the 70s, American Werewolf in London was one of his most famous productions. But yeah, all throughout his entire career, gorillas, it always seems to come back to that.
Well, he worked on Schlock, which came out like 3 years before, which is about
That's
a guy.
the John Landis movie, right?
It's a guy in a monkey suit. Yeah, John Landis.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he wore the monkey suit. Wouldn't even be. I would not be surprised at all if Trading Places or whatever, like that was him too.
I believe it was. Who was in that suit? Oh, Vern. They put Vern. They put who is Die Hard? What's the? Listen to me, you little asshole.
Dwayne.
Dwayne, yeah. That's the dude who gets cornholed by the guy.
Oh no, Dwayne. Anyway, tangent aside, King Kong, it's his entrance is great, but it's really funny actually because he comes in and actually the shot from his perspective of walking up to Dwan when he's like knocking down the trees and stuff, the lighting here is bizarre because it's like he has headlights for eyes. Because, like, the tree line is, like, lit the fuck up. And you can see, like, the light sources, like, jittering around. It looks very reminiscent of one of the very first shots, if not the first shot of Jurassic Park. Mm-hmm. When the container's crashing through the branches.
Yeah.
Looks very similar to that. But after he gets up to her, he roars. He beats his chest, because that's what a giant gorilla does. And then he just pauses. And he picks her up and he just walks away. And there's no music here. There's no sound other than her screaming and him growling. He just like, yoink. Yeah. He just turns around and all the villagers go, yeah!
He runs off with her and the cavalry comes in. They shoot the guns, the flares, and we get some in-out with the little...
Hey, push it back in, man. It's like why? It's like I don't know, just do it, man.
Just do it. It feels better. They get rid of everybody. They get to the other side, and I love this line. Who do you think went through there? A guy in an ape suit? And I'm like, that's exactly who went through there. His name is Rick Baker. He just went through there in a monkey suit.
His name is Rick. He's over in craft services. Hopefully not wearing the very expensive gorilla suit right now. But yeah, Charles Grodin falls into one of the footprints. And so we, without having actually seen the damn thing, now all the sailors and Jack are aware that there is some sort of creature that has her, that has a footprint like 6 feet long. That's a problem. But yeah, very similar to the 1930s film. Jack takes a party with a bunch of armed sailors and stuff with him to traipse through the jungle to try to recover the lady. They don't find anything because it's that kind of movie. So we get to nighttime and they have to set up camp, which I want to say is maybe like a sign that there's a problem with the pacing of your monster movie. That you have this search party run off into the night with guns and stuff, and they're like their blood's pumping, they're like going, and then it's like, we didn't find anything, man. I guess we got to take a nap. It's like, hang on, what?
Well,
it's like you're hinting at a major action scene, and then it ends with people pitching tents.
I think I have some theories of why this is a problem. One, the original had dinosaurs, which they did not have the time, I would say. You got your main makeup artist as the actual King Kong. So who's working on it? He's doing this now, so you don't really have anybody else to work on it. I don't think they had. I don't think they went. They could have done some stop motion, but you would have to have stop motion against a guy in a suit. So I just think it was maybe a budget, and they just didn't have the time to do any of the fun stuff.
Time would be my suspicion. Although, even as a child, actually, I theorized that they were averse to putting dinosaurs in it because they would think it would be too silly. Which, if you fast forward to like the 90s or the 2010s, you're crazy. Put all the dinosaurs in it. But in the 70s, for some reason, I planted this idea in my head that's like, I think they were scared of putting dinosaurs in it because that's what B movies did. Mm-hmm. And this movie's trying to not be that, even though it's derived from that. You can tell by like the seriousness of like the soundtrack and just the just the general structure of the movie. It's not an action movie. That's the main thing. It's trying to be greater than what it actually is. And I think they thought it would be hokey to put dinosaurs in there. Although they do put a random fucking snake in there that raises all sorts of questions, but is dead before he can even get to asking them.
I think it's the snake from Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, except it's like 10 times bigger.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we get a really important scene here. And this is an interesting scene because there's no dialogue for a while anyway. But it's Dwan waking up in a bed of leaves, and King Kong's just like, he's popping a squat. He's just kind of like staring at her. Like he's squatting and looking down at her. And we get like a really mixed bag when it comes to the lighting here. Like the jungle set behind her looks like absolute trash. Like this looks like Star Trek: The Next Generation, like season 1 kind of shit.
Dude, it's so hard.
I've told you before, man. It may be a good idea to skip to the next one because it does get better.
Do I need to see the first season for the rest of the series to make sense? I know who the Ferengi are, so that's good.
There's some character stuff where there's a character who gets axed from the first season but comes back in later seasons. Who it would be nice to know how they met their end, but they come back enough, and it is weekly. It's a Monster of the Week series. Like the storyline's built. It's not like Netflix shit where like everything bleeds into the next. Yeah. It's like no, it's like episodic television. So it's designed for you to just like plop down after work, put it on, and kind of pay attention to it.
Those
and
were the
get
good old days.
It's like baseball in TV show form.
Gotcha. Okay. Anyway,
yeah, so you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Okay. But yeah, the jungle set behind you looks like trash. And there's some wonderful shots of Kong's face. But then there's also some of the worst shots of Kong's face.
Yeah.
And it's like really inconsistent lighting. In particular, the best shot I think in the whole movie of his face is when he slams his fist down next to her, and he's like kind of baring his teeth, and he looks real pissed.
Mm-hmm.
And the lighting is just so that one of those contacts, one of those brown contacts he has on, is catching the light, and it like there's a weird reflection in there that makes him look particularly aggressive. But then there's these other shots where it's just like, was the lighting guy on break? What the fuck are we doing, guys? was Dino out of the country? Somebody didn't do their job.
I think Dino was on set for this part.
Yeah, and it's no surprise why.
Yeah.
So this sequence is where Kong is kind of poking her with his giant mechanical arm. I think the mechanical arm prop is pretty good.
It is good.
The full mechanical Kong is trash.
The
arm is good.
Do you think this is better than what they did in the 1933 one? Because that was one that you and I both thought was amazing, was what they did.
Picking the clothes off is more impressive than virtually anything in this movie, honestly. Except, I mean, obviously the technical advancements, like the facial animatronics and stuff. But just the matting, like the precision required to get that right in 1933 is astounding.
Yeah.
In this, you have some cool things where like you have her in the giant mechanical hand, and then the camera like pulls up to Kong's face so it looks like he's holding her up to him. Those are cool and stuff, except we've seen that trick done many other times in other movies. So nothing like truly astounding, but in 1976 I'm sure it was still impressive. But yeah, he's poking her around, and he picks her up at one point, and
she's all
finally
muddy.
Yeah, she does get pretty muddy because he's nudging her and stuff. He's treating her like she's not a living thing, or she's like a plaything or something. And this was drawn out quite a bit more in the Peter Jackson version, where
it's drawn out more.
It's a Peter Jackson movie, Kyle. Of course it is. But Naomi Watts does like a vaudeville show, like she dances for him. And she does like a pratfall, and Kong thinks it's funny, so he like laughs at it, and he like she uses like a stick as a cane, and he keeps like flicking it out from under her, but she actually starts hurting herself, and then she like shouts at him. He's like, "Oh, it talks!" like, it's actually kind of a cool moment. But in this one, He picks her up and he holds her up to his face. And it needs to be said, his face often looks very hostile. Like he's doing a lot of growling, and she does like try to run away at one point. But the really interesting scene here is when he's holding her up to his face, she's like screaming at him, and at one point she's like hitting him on the lips because she thinks he's gonna eat her. And this sequence I actually thought was impressive from an acting standpoint because remember, first time actress, and she's being asked to play an entire scene to nobody. Like it's just her delivering all these lines and going through all these different emotional dips and valleys on her own. And this was in the 70s when we weren't making Star Wars prequels where that was the norm, where it's like, oh, you mean they'll put in the guy I'm talking to later? Okay, it's a blue screen movie, got it. Imagination, that's my best friend. But yeah, I thought it was kind of neat. But anyway, somehow she kind of like wins him over a bit, I guess, because she's violent. And she basically like hits him on the lips a bunch and like is just thinking a mile a minute and just kind of having like word diarrhea. Like just throwing anything that she can think of at him and hoping for the best. And yeah, he doesn't end up killing her, but he does like smash his fist down next to her when she tries to run away after he sets her down. So it's like the element of danger is there's like a push and pull to it, where it's like you think it's all going to be okay, but then he's an unpredictable animal. We're not sure. But long story short, the sequence ends seemingly with them being okay with each other on some level. It's very strange.
Yeah, she gets all muddy and he puts her underneath the waterfall.
Yeah, that's my pick for the most embarrassing sequence in the whole movie.
I don't know what the point is. He puts her underneath the waterfall. She gets all wet. Looks like she's almost being waterboarded when this was being filmed. And then he throws her into the pool so she can swim a little bit. And I don't know what to make of this. It's a nice set. Like, it's a really impressive set.
It's okay.
I like the set.
The texture on the rocks looks a little Land of the Losty.
I mean, 1976. What are you gonna do?
If you look on the other side of that rock face, you'll find Olmec. Is what I'm trying to get at. It's okay, but yeah, this sequence gets my vote for the most embarrassing in the whole movie because this is where he bathes her. We have the sweeping John Barry romantic score. I mean, for fuck's sake, the man did James Bond movies. He knows how to, make music that makes people's pants come off. And the worst part, though, is Kong blows on her to dry her.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
And this is impressive from an animatronic standpoint because they had to figure out the logistics of making his cheeks puff out like that and his like lips purse in such a way. I'm sure those nerds had a grand old time doing that.
Yeah.
But we, the audience, are like, what the fuck am I watching? Yeah. And to make matters worse, every time Rick Baker smiles in this ape suit, it's terrifying. In fact, Kyle, every promotional still, every photo I use to promote this episode is going to be a different angle of Rick Baker smiling in the gorilla scene. Because it's terrifying, especially when you see him through the window towards the end of the movie. But yeah, anyway, expedition to find her is not going so hot. Along the way, we're like planting seismic charges. Actually, interesting callback to call forward to Kong Skull Island, where that was supposed to be the mission at Skull Island, where they're like dropping seismic charges to map the island. We're doing the same thing here, but we're trying to look for oil. But back on the beach, this is where Charles Grodin discovers from his chemist buddy that I think you said you enjoyed this reaction. Do you want to share what happens here, Kyle?
Because this is 20 minutes of bullshit leading up to this. But so they're on the beach, just kind of camped out, having some drinks, and his chemist buddy comes up and he's like, "Well, I have some news." He's like, "You definitely have got you've got oil. You've definitely got oil." He's like, super excited and stuff, and he's got a little pint of Jack Daniels, and he's like, "Yeah. It'll totally be usable in another 10,000 years." And he just starts laughing, and I'm like, yeah, I would be chuckling at this too. all this work to get all the way there, and you were dead fucking wrong. And on top of it, you told the company that you struck gold. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, your delivery just there, Kyle. In about 10,000 years, yeah, he's a professor of being a dog. Do you know that one? Cabin Fever.
Yes. Yes.
Of being a dog.
Is that when Eli Roth is at the campfire?
Yep, Dr. Bongo and Eli Roth. Yeah.
That's Soul Patch.
I don't know why I thought of that just now, but yeah, Charles Grodin is a little upset. But he has a light bulb moment almost immediately because he hops on the radio and he calls in a airdrop from the Petrox company. So he's got a plan, and we, the audience, having seen a few King Kong movies, are pretty sure we know what that plan is. Yeah. But meanwhile, we get a scene that in the 1933 Kong and basically every King Kong movie except for maybe the Godzilla ones.
Log flip.
Yeah, this is like one of the show-stopping sequences. This is one of the most iconic images in, the King Kong history. And it's fucking terrible. The set is hideous.
I like the matte paintings.
I hate the matte paintings.
No, I like that
I think they look like shit.
They look like shit, but I'm glad they're there. Like, it does not match the rest of the film at all. It's like a completely different movie taking place.
They look like out of fucking Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
Like, where's He-Man? Where's Frank Langella?
Oh, no. The matte paintings don't always have to be immaculate for me to enjoy them. They just have to be there and be entertaining to look at. I like them in this.
I'm not even talking about just the matte paintings. I mean
Set.
the set and the matte paintings.
Yeah.
And the framing. The cinematography shit here, too.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you can pull this up right now, but the framing, for some reason, like, I don't know, maybe the matte painting, like, maybe some guy fucked up and made him too short or something.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know exactly.
But it's like I'm just like my eyes and my brain are just like, can you just like raise the camera or tilt it up just a little bit? Like Jeff Bridges' head is almost cut off.
Yeah, I don't think they had enough space for that. I know exactly what shot you're talking about.
It's every shot in the sequence. It's the whole 5 minutes. The sequence is terrible. I hate it.
Yeah, no, it's not very good.
No, it's fucking terrible.
I think
it looks like ass.
I think the log flip is the worst part of this, and the hand grabbing around the grabbing over the side. Like, yeah, it's really not good.
It's a very lackadaisical. Like, he's not even flipping the log. He's just kind of like slightly jostling it, and then these guys have the exact same death over and over and over again. It's not nearly as gruesome or memorable as the original or the Peter Jackson one, where we actually get to see these fucking dolls bounce off the cliff face and scream all the way down, only to immediately stop when they hit. That was brutal shit.
Put Lou Ferrigno in the suit and just let him Hulk this shit out. Just like really fuck up this log.
Well, Kyle, you just came up with a movie idea: Hulk versus King Kong.
Yeah. Don't say that out. God damn it, Trevor.
Well,
that could happen.
Let me just put this to rest. It wouldn't be a good fight because Hulk would win.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, easily. So it wouldn't be a very good fight, but just not the Hulk, but can I just have a green Lou Ferrigno?
I prefer
the size of King Kong. Like, he puts on a growth belt and just goes brrr, and then they have a fist fight in the jungle. That's all they need is Lou Ferrigno beating the fuck out of a guy in a gorilla suit.
I have in my notes undressing a fucking snake. Was she taking her clothes off when the snake came up?
Kong was doing it for her.
Oh, this was the undressing, yes.
Yeah, so the log flip happens. Everybody dies except for Jack and one other fella who was on the opposite side. So just like the 1933 Kong, where two survivors left over, and Kong is pissed off because he can't get to Jack. And last thing about the log flip, why is there a light source coming up from the chasm?
Yeah, there's certain lighting.
Like the first mate is wearing his naval uniform with white pants. Mm-hmm. There's clearly light going up his crotch. That's not how light works.
I know. I have a problem in movies where it's so obvious that we have the giant light in the background. Like, you're just like, oh my god. In Fast and the Furious, you can actually see it. you can see the giant light on the road when they have like an overhead view. I'm like, that's the light. That's the thing. I think in The Unborn, I noticed it where the lady sits on the couch and you can see it's like there's like track lighting. There's like lighting coming from underneath. I'm like, why? That looks so stupid. Like, I know you're trying to light it, but I can tell what you're doing. I didn't notice it in this scene, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, just trust me.
Okay.
This movie is all over the place with its lighting. Where I didn't look up who the DP or who the lighting people were, but they're very good at like sexy lighting. So like eye lights and stuff, like things that are meant to make people look good, even the gorilla, although it's very inconsistent. Actually, I can't get away from this fucking log scene. I am sorry, Kyle, but the worst shots of King Kong in this entire movie happen in the scene because they didn't lube him up. You know, part of like rendering like realistic animal skin in monster suit form involves, you know, putting like KY jelly on them or something to, you know, skin has oil on it, you know. So that's an important element of rendering the effect of a living creature in rubberized form. Somebody forgot to lube the gorilla because he looks dry as fuck. Like he looks like my tires outside. like he looks kind of like sad gray instead of, you know, proud majestic black. Or obsidian black or whatever you want to call it. Somebody missed a step is what I'm saying in terms of prepping the suit that day. Anyway, so Jack is on the hunt for Dwan still. Petrox does the airdrop. We're not entirely sure what it is that's been dropped. We retrieve it from the ocean, and we get a whole bunch of banter on the beach with Charles Grodin yelling on the radio like a fucking war general. And he makes it clear that his plan at this point is to capture the gorilla because they had a previous ad campaign involving tigers or something that worked for the company. He doesn't want to come home empty-handed, so god damn it, he's going to get that gorilla. So this is actually kind of a difference between some of the other King Kong movies, where this is the plan to capture Kong formulating much earlier and more distinctly. Where in the original 1933 one, it was out of desperation. They got like pushed to the beach, and then they threw gas bombs at him. And then Denham was like, "Hey, we have a sleeping gorilla on the beach. We should take him home with us." And we didn't really shoot a film. And in this guy's case, he's like distinctly gunning for. He's precisely gunning for the gorilla at this point. Like that's the plan now. And his delivery during this entire sequence is in full cartoon fashion, where he's like gnashing his teeth. And he's like, "Action, shell gasoline, like Petrox." And I want to say every bit of dialogue in this beach scene is dubbed, by the way, because they probably had shitty acoustics outdoors and with crashing waves and stuff. But anyway, they're planning some sort of capture for Kong. The captain's getting kind of pissed because he's like, "Hey, my boys are out there and we're not doing anything about it." Fred tells him to go fuck himself. And Jack continues to pursue, and we get another shitty set. So this would be like the volcano / like mountain area. So Kong carries Dwan up there, and it's like this foggy like mountain area. And it looks like it's maybe 5 feet wide or something, and the rest of it is matte paintings. It's just something this scale needs to have more detail to look right, and this is not very detailed. It just looks like a man in a gorilla suit in the back of a Halloween store. I'm sorry, like this is not one of the better effects in the movie. But yeah, this is where he starts undressing her. And I think we do get a bit of boob through her puka shell necklaces and stuff. And then, Kyle, your favorite part, random snake.
Comes out of nowhere, and you barely see, like, it's barely seen. And then he just all of a sudden rips it. Like, he rips its mouth open, but you can only see half of the mouth. Like, you can barely see this snake.
Yeah, I want to say somebody was embarrassed by this effect or something. Because like you said, they went to the trouble to make a big old snake, and it wrestles with him for about 10 seconds, and then he tears its fucking head off.
Yeah.
It doesn't put up much of a fight. From a utilitarian standpoint, like really the only reason the big crazy giant snake, by the way. This thing's bigger than he is. Like, this is a record-setting snake.
Yeah.
Jack should just, like, put everything else on hold and just examine this fucking snake. But from a logistical standpoint, the only reason the snake is here is to give Dwan a way to get away from Kong.
Yeah.
Like, just a way for him to have to put her down and to be busy doing something else. And it succeeds in doing that. Jack arrives on the scene just in time to reunite with her. Kind of similar to the 33 version, although not nearly as thrilling because we don't get a pteranodon. They jump from the cliffside into the water, and Kong... Apparently, Jack says at some point that apes don't swim. He is proven wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, Kong doesn't jump in to chase them. So they're headed back to the village. And the Petrox crew and Charles Grodin have set up a chloroform pit, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So they've created like a really rudimentary like pit for him to like. They cover it with leaves and branches and stuff for him to fall into. So like a pretty basic hunting trap. But they have all these barrels rigged with explosives to tip over and spill chloroform. They do some more in out with that gate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think your theory is rock solid, Kyle, because as the gorilla is coming, walked right into it.
Very poor choice of words.
As the gorilla is approaching, there's this random extraneous bit of dialogue where Charles Grodin actually looks to his chemist buddy and some of the other crew members and it's like, are you sure that gorilla can break through the gate? And they all look at each other, and this is a weird bit of like dressing down Kong in some ways because they don't have confidence in him to break the gate.
I mean, he hasn't so far, apparently.
I guess, but it's a monster movie. You're supposed to like hype up the monster, make him look good. In this case, they're like, oh, I think that gorilla's kind of a wuss. Like, I don't know if he can do it, boss. So they actually do, like, this is where we get the in out, where they do half open the gate. Like, they do unlatch it just a little bit. But then they have to completely unlatch it because Jack and Dwan show up with, of course, him shirtless and carrying her because American movie in the 70s.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they end up trying to latch the gate again, so we literally do get an in out. But yeah, I like the sequence where Kong is smashing the gate open. Rick Baker looks like he had a shit ton of fun.
Yeah. It's probably hot in that thing, and he's just like, fuck this! Just going nuts.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, the fella that took over the Godzilla suit after Nakajima kind of retired, Kenpachiro Satsuma, his Godzilla acting method was rage.
Nice.
Like on the set, he said all I was doing in that thing was cussing and just like thrashing around. Like people on the set were like, "That guy's fucking scary."
Okay.
Yeah, just imagine a guy in a Godzilla suit walking around and all you're hearing is cuss words in Japanese. Like, it's the whole time. But yeah, long story short, he smashes through the gate, and in another instance of making this gorilla look utterly pathetic, he takes one step into the camp and he falls into that hole and he passes the fuck out.
How did they have time to dig a hole this big?
Beats me, Kyle.
Yeah.
They had a cat excavation vehicle, and if you've seen Tremors, you know how capable a cat is.
Yeah.
Much can be done with the cat. I love that in that movie. What about the cat?
I watched that movie way too late in life, so it just did not.
Aww,
yeah, it did not.
You ruined it.
Well, that's what happened with you in Point Break. So.
Yeah, actually, fair point.
Yeah.
I rescind that comment. But yeah, this I guess gets at one of the major differences between this Kong and every other Kong is that I've probably said it too many times. It's probably getting annoying at this point, but this is not an action movie. And the depiction of Kong in this film is largely sympathetic. Like, he's supposed to come across as, like, a victim, especially by the... He turns into Jesus at the end of this movie,
yeah.
In some ways. But, yeah, the idea is instead of the...
He does, actually. Yeah.
He totally does.
Yeah.
Like Passion of the Christ version, that is. But, yeah, he's not meant to be, you know, a thrill a minute, like... action roller coaster figure. He's not a superhero. He's just a big animal in this that happens to have the hots for, admittedly, a very hot blonde. And I appreciate the attempt to do something different, but it makes it very boring because, like I said, as like a kid seeing this movie for the first time, all you want is for him to punch a fucking dinosaur.
Yeah.
Or punt a car or anything. Or chew a dude up and spit him out. But every time the movie is telling us it's about to happen, he gets chloroformed or some shit.
Have him pick up a lady from an apartment building and drop her. Like, give us.
Thankfully, he does do that. But
does he do that? I didn't even notice. I mean, honestly, once we get to New York, I'm just like, oh, okay. There's another 45 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah, it's way too little, too late.
They go to a fucking bar. Like, they just like, oh, let me buy you a drink. I'm like, we're at the climax, and you are having a bar scene for like 5 minutes.
Again, your delivery, Kyle, for some reason. You could be a fucking bartender for all we know. I don't know why I'm making all these associations. Maybe my wires are crossed. It's been a long day. But
maybe my fuck was on par with Dwayne's. Like, just the.
My favorite Dwayneism, and there are many. That man doesn't have that many lines in that movie,
We're gonna
but
need
every
more
one
FBI
he has
guys?
is fucking gold.
Oh,
I mean that's a close second. Mine is when they're asking for the go code to like enter the building,
Kick ass.
and he just pauses. Kick ass.
Yeah. I like him.
Holy Christ!
You listen to me, you little asshole. I love his ass.
Asshole. Yeah, that was a Vince McMahon asshole.
It was. That was gruff. Yeah. Anyway,
but yeah, this movie is really not interested in having Kong deliver the action goods, so instead we're meant to feel bad for him, and
which I don't.
It sometimes works. More often than not, you're just like, I'm bored. Can we do something? But anyway, we do capture Kong. We don't show the logistics of putting him on the ship because that would be impossible.
Just he's on there. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, we cut to an oil tanker at sea, and we get a not so well lighted scene of our three mains. So Charles Grodin, Jessica Lange, and Jeff Bridges, all hanging out on the ship, and I guess Tuan is now like a promotional model or something for Petrox.
Yeah.
She gets the papers from Charles Grodin. The two of them are super fucking hyped. Jeff Bridges is like, you guys are both idiots. Yeah. What am I doing? Oh, and they're playing like backgammon or Parcheesi or something. It's so weird. They're on an oil tanker playing like fucking backgammon. It's like, I don't even know how to play that.
I don't know how to play Parcheesi.
That's like one of those games that's like you get one of those boxes that has multiple games in it, like a chess / checkers set, and you're like, what the fuck is that? And you ask your dad, and he's like, I don't know. You think I know? Jeez. But this is where Charles Grodin strikes his pose that I may actually have to take a still of like right now. I might have to print screen this because I'm going to do it for Kyle, where he's like trying to get both of them as hyped as he is, and nobody can because he's Charles Grodin, but he's like, it's like a Jim Carrey pose, actually. It's an Ace Ventura pose where he's got his mouth hanging wide open. He's got his fists in like pelvic thrusting position, and he keeps flipping his head back and forth like, He
does have a good crazy guy smile. He has a few moments in Clifford where he has like a menacing, like, I'm going crazy smile. Probably in Beethoven, too.
When did Clifford come out, by the way?
It's in the 90s. I think it was like 92 or 93.
I had never heard of it, honestly, but you've brought it up not just on this episode, so
94.
Maybe I missed out.
If you like Martin Short, it's fun.
I do?
It's fun because he plays a 10-year-old boy.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It's pretty fun. He is infuriating in that movie.
Okay, maybe not then. Maybe not then.
It's funny.
I don't know what it says about me as a person, Kyle, but even as a child, mischief was not something I was terribly fond of. Like those like 90s kid power movies. Like I was always in the back of my head. I was always like, "Oh, it's gonna be so hard to clean up."
Oh, it's not.
You guys really got to cut it out.
It's not a kid power movie.
Okay, great.
He is a conniving little 10-year-old, manipulating, conniving little 10-year-old. It's worth your time. I recommend it.
Should they have Clifford versus Stewart from Mad TV or some shit?
Stewart had no direction. He had no real objective in mind. Clifford has an objective, and he will reach it.
Okay, duly noted.
His dad is played by Richard Karn, by the way. Or Richard Kind. Not Richard Karn, Richard Kind. Richard Kind.
Ooh, even better.
Yeah.
From Spin City?
Yeah. I was going to say
Enthusiasm?
a serious man, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's fantastic in everything.
Yeah.
I adore that man.
He's very funny.
He makes you smile without even saying a thing. Like, he just shows up and you're like, oh, man, it's going to be good.
He is a funny running gag on Scrubs as well. Dude, you cannot find Spin City anywhere.
Really?
Yeah, I'm like, I will buy it on Amazon. I don't care. I'll watch it because I want to go back and watch that show. It's ABC, so I don't know if they have a platform. Pluto TV, that's where you can get it.
That was on in the perfect time slot while I was in college. So I watched a lot of that, a lot of Yes Dear, and a lot of Becker. A lot of off-brand sitcoms.
I remember really liking Alan Ruck in that show.
I don't remember who that was.
Alan Ruck? Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off? The guy with he's got.
Oh, yeah, in Spin City.
In Spin City, yes.
Yeah, he was great. Also a Stewart, I believe. Anyway, back to the big gorilla. So we have him in the cargo hold, and we're just like casually dropping fruits and veggies down this like grating. Pretty sure you need to give him more than that to feed him.
Yeah, no shit.
His metabolism's probably nuts.
This is actually interesting, or something I wanted to bring up, because is he eating the virgins, or is he eating the sacrifice? Is that what they're doing? I'm assuming, but gorillas don't eat meat.
Yeah, I thought they were vegetarians mostly.
The primates
if completely.
Chimpanzees will eat meat, and it's cannibal. It's like they participate.
They'll eat other monkeys.
They're cannibals. Like they will eat They will eat meat, but gorillas no. They're vegetarian. They're vegan. So, it doesn't make any sense. Like in the movie,
I think it's always been implied that he's eating them. In some King Kong movies, he eats people. In the first King Kong, curiously enough, he puts them in his mouth, but he never eats them.
Huh.
He just chews them up.
Just sucks on them like a hard candy.
Yeah, like a pickled plum or something. But
a pickled plum. I was gonna say a wordless original. What the fuck's a pickled plum?
Try it sometime. It's great. Anyway,
sounds Japanese.
It is. Anyway, he doesn't eat anyone in this one, but in the direct sequel, which also produced by Dino De Laurentiis and also directed by John Guillermin, King Kong Lives. That would be the direct sequel wherein Linda Hamilton gives King Kong a artificial heart transplant and blood transfusion.
Wait, what?
Yes, these are all things that happen in the direct sequel to this movie. Which Kyle? That movie was on the watch list for Catching Up on Cinema long before this one was.
Really? You should have mentioned that, because that would have been... Linda Hamilton gives King Kong a heart transplant.
Yes, a heart transplant, and then we get a juicy finale where he fights the military as represented by Taggart from Beverly Hills Cop. And he also kills a bunch of redneck hunters in the woods in I think California or something. It's a schlocky movie. It doesn't have the budget or the ambition of this one. Same director, same producer though. Somebody had some confidence in it.
I think this movie did well enough that they're like, do another one. It'll make money.
But really all I wanted to say was that in King Kong Lives, he does eat people.
Okay.
And in Kong Skull Island, there are implied eatings of people where there's a lot of really cool edits in that movie where we cut away from something horrible, but the timing is so precise where it's like, oh, I got all the information I need.
I got it.
No, they do shit like, if I remember right, and I could be misquoting the movie, but it's like one of the military guys falls out of one of the Hueys into his mouth that's open.
Oh, nice.
And then we cut to someone biting into a sandwich.
Oh, nice.
It's like, oh, that's beautiful.
Gotcha.
Like that's so amateurish in some ways, but it's perfect at the same time. But anyway, Kong is throwing a fit in the cargo hold, and Dwan has been kind of having some misgivings. She's like on the fence about how to feel about things because she got a brand new job. It's looking good. Clearly, she was in some form of dire straits before all these hijinks, all these monkey hijinks and whatnot. But she goes out to visit Kong because he's like banging some holes in the in the hull of the ship. He's like causing problems to the interior of the ship. So she runs out there and calms him down. Like she goes and she sits on this grating, and she actually falls into the holding with Kong, and we get this overly long sequence of her falling, him catching her, and then he like has a food coma or something because he sets her down and then he just lets her go and doesn't even sit up. Like he's just like totally chill. But the music's meant to tell us that it's sad, and we get some cool matte paintings of her like climbing out of the interior, but it's just like it just goes on and on and on, and nothing actually happens. He just watches her leave, and then we're in New York. Yeah, which begins the finale of the movie, where she's like getting all dressed up, and Fred is dressed in like a kitschy like safari outfit, and we have like a public unveiling of Kong somewhere in New York, like the outskirts of the city. And Kyle, would you like to try to describe this this setup they have here?
Like what they have him in?
Yeah.
It's very strange. It does not look secure. I would be completely.
It looks like a dirt bike rally or something.
Yeah, it's hard to describe. I don't know how to describe the thing that they've got him confined to. I
can tell you exactly what it is.
Go for it.
So they wheel him out like on a track, and so what we're doing is a recreation of the island scenario, but there's a whole bunch of people like with bleachers surrounding this. So this is very much a public unveiling with the Petrox logo all over the place, and they have Dwan like tied with like Hulk Hogan boas or something to these like silver pillars that are meant to mimic what she was tied to on the island. And then a gate opens, and a gigantic gas pump wheels out to her. A Petrox gas pump wheels out to her, and then they take the lid off of it like the slipcase on a VHS tape.
Yeah.
And it reveals a cage that is holding King Kong, who is like hand and foot cuffed to the interior of this steel cage, and he's also wearing a crown.
Yes.
So this is this film's interpretation of the stage show in the 1930s version. I get what they're going for here. This is very 70s, very kitschy, like very very gaudy and downright silly. But I could totally see some stupid shit like this happening. Like something about the arrangement of the set and like the American flag motif on all of the decorations makes me think of like an Evel Knievel show or some shit.
This reminds me of the scene in Apocalypse Now when they bring the playmates in for all the guys to see. That's what this reminded me of.
Good call there. I hadn't thought of that, but you're totally right. Man, that scene got crazy.
Yeah, that's the Coppola has he's made such iconic films like especially in the 70s there, but there are definitely moments in those movies where you can like just pluck that out, and that whole scene was like just take that out and it's totally fine.
Yeah, it's very very long, and it has an intensity to it that's interesting, but it doesn't connect all that well with the movie, if you ask me.
Not to derail us, but I think the wedding scene in The Godfather, I love that opening scene at the wedding.
I like the second one, the wedding in that one.
See, that one bugged me. I don't know what it was. I did not like the.
It's even longer, Kyle.
Because it's longer, and I don't like the setting. I didn't like the setting there.
Gotcha.
It is kind of fucked up that they put her back into the chains. I'm like, that's kind of messed up, dude. Like that was probably really traumatic for her.
Yeah, but put a pin in that when we get to the very, very end of the movie, because I'm curious if maybe you can find a reason for this, because I wasn't able to really. But anyway, things go exactly as you would expect, although it's important to note here that apparently the way this film was promoted, a lot of the special effects were kept very hush-hush during production, so nobody really had any idea of how King Kong was going to be rendered in the film. Which led to some mystique, which led to some ticket sales for sure. But one thing that was disclosed to the public and hyped the fuck out of was a 50-foot tall Robot Kong, I think was what they were calling it. You know, it's a giant robotic animatronic basically, and it literally was 50 feet tall. Yeah.
Is that the scene you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. I was just about to comment on that. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, either that's an excellent like camera trick that they did, or that's a 50-foot fucking Kong.
No, it is a 50-foot prop. The only problem is that its articulation and its ability to perform was terrible.
Gotcha.
Like, it really wasn't flexible enough. It couldn't move with any sort of speed or intention.
That's where all your money went.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm sure that was the case. And yeah, it was used to promote the film very heavily, but in terms of its actual screen time in the finished product, it's like 2 shots. It's like barely 5 seconds.
It's not even 5 seconds. It's 2 seconds, yeah. I think.
Yeah, it's used very, very sparingly and pretty much exclusively in this sequence. So that was kind of mean on the part of the producer. Actually, very clever on the part of the producer, Dino, who is not dumb. But yeah, predictably, Kong breaks free. Very similar to the 33 version. The press start to harass Dwan, and it enrages the animal. So he breaks free of his holdings, and there's this like awkward moment where it's like, okay, he's free. He hasn't done anything yet, but maybe if we stay quiet and very slowly back out, we'll all be okay.
Oh no, they just scream and take off running.
Yeah, and there's some cool shots in
here.
Oh
man, that looks bad. Sorry, I didn't catch the. Oh my goodness.
Good lord.
Oh, good God. Yeah, that was really bad.
Yeah, it doesn't move well. Looks okay in stills, but once it tries to raise its arms, But there's some cool composite shots in here of him stepping on the crowd.
Yeah, I'm watching. I'm watching it right now.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool because like instead of like having dramatic moments where people get stepped on or like stomped on and stuff, he just very casually wades into the crowd because it's like they're like ants to him. They're like bugs. And this is also where Charles Grodin meets his end. Somehow, I have no clue how, he ends up in front of the gorilla while he runs up to it.
He does.
It's so bizarre. The blocking is terrible. Where we see him in the crowd getting pushed around, and he's moving away, and then all of a sudden he's alone, and he like marches up to the gorilla, and he gets stepped on. Needs to be said, production detail. Apparently the script didn't have him die in this movie.
Really?
Apparently Kong stepped next to him. And it's interesting because this was foreshadowed by him falling into the footprint earlier in the film. But yeah, apparently a version of the script existed where, and it may have been shot, where he doesn't get stepped on. Kong misses him. And then he's, left to live with his guilty conscience or whatever. Also, I could not watch it. I actually made an attempt, but a Twitter account called Daikaiju TV, I think they stream via like Twitch or something, they announced that they were screening the 3-hour television cut of this movie.
Oh gosh.
A few weeks ago, and I did actually put it on, but I found it so insufferable I actually gave up.
Gotcha.
And you know me, that's rare.
Yeah,
I usually don't give up on movies, and I couldn't do it. But apparently in the extended cut, there's a sequence where, like, I think Fred Wilson's boss chews him out from the bleachers and tells him, "You'll never work in this town again," or some shit. It's weird. But it's the 3-hour extended cut, so it was like everything we shot is now in the film, like regardless of whether it drags the film down or not. But yeah, our 2 remaining leads flee the scene, and we get the iconic train sequence. Which actually looks pretty okay.
Yeah.
So Kong steps up to these train tracks. Unlike in Kong 33, he really doesn't have a reason for smashing up the tracks. He just does it. Whereas in 33, I love that the one train buzzed him, and like he's like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
and so he takes out his aggression, on the tracks because the train is long since passed and something has to get smashed.
This set looks really good.
Oh yeah. The set for the train sequence looks fantastic, and like all the electrical cracking and stuff. This was what the Universal Studios ride really really banked on it when it came to like advertising. I remember being a kid and seeing like TV commercials for Universal Studios, and the Kong portion of the tour or whatever always looked like the coolest fucking thing ever. It was this basically, but we do a combination of two scenes here where instead of Kong reaching into apartment buildings and stuff, he peels the roof off of one of these train cars. And by the way, our two leads are in this train.
So he smells her,
Yeah, he smells her. And a different blonde woman in a similar dress is in the train, and he picks her up, and because it's suitmation, instead of him like tossing like a stop motion lady, he literally just like grabs like a Barbie doll and like tosses it. It's pretty savage. It's kind of cool. But anyway, he throws the train off the tracks and causes an explosion. Also, the extended cut has a moment that, oh my god, I actually wish it was in this version of the movie, because it's so small, but it's what this movie needs. It's more of him walking through the streets of New York, and like just a random car pulls up to him, and he picks it up and he throws it into a window of a building.
Like, yeah, that works.
Yes, more of that, please. But Kyle, do you remember anything that happened when we're running away from the giant gorilla, and then we decide to take a break for some booze?
Yeah, so they're running, and he's taking, I guess he's gonna like go over to Manhattan. It looks like he's gonna cross the river there, and they're just like, oh, we got away from him. Twin Towers, let's go grab a drink. They're just like, we're gonna go grab a drink, and I don't understand why. Like, is it just like, well, we're all fucked now? I don't really understand why we're it's the climax and we're sitting in a bar. It's the dumbest thing.
We're sitting in a bar. I get this in like suicide mission movies and stuff. Like the Wild Bunch has a famous scene where it's before the final gun battle and stuff, and we just go through a walk through town, and there's just this like calm before the storm. Only problem is this movie doesn't have a storm.
Mm-mm.
And just when you think it's starting, we cut it halfway through and we take a booze break.
Yeah.
I did like that they're in the middle of running, and I think she still has her heels on. That really irritates me in movies. It really irritates me. It's a pet peeve of mine. I understand it's strange, but it's personal.
You can't run in
I just don't
heels.
like seeing that.
You can't run in heels.
You can't run in heels, and I hate seeing like women in movies being asked to do action stuff and being forced to wear goofy heels. It's like, you're gonna roll an ankle. Yeah, it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. I'm not rolling an ankle for you, bro. But yeah, so Jeff Bridges figures out, he's like, on that island there's those two big rocks that kind of look like the Twin Towers, so I think he's gonna go there. And he's right. That's exactly where he's headed.
Yeah, similar view. So he assumes the gorilla's gonna go to where he probably thinks he's still on the island in some fashion or something, but not before. While Jeff Bridges is on the phone, Kong scoops up Dwan, and she seems to have mixed feelings about this at this point. And the military has assembled at the two towers because of Jeff Bridges giving them the tip. Also, it's kind of interesting that the relationship between our two leads at this point is like really fractured and tenuous at best, where it's like he was given quite a bit of money for helping out with securing Kong and stuff, but he like tore up the contract and basically gave it back, whereas Dwan is like officially a Petrox employee and is like fully bought into things.
It's her big break, dude. You're not walking away from this.
Yeah, it's her big break, but you can tell Jeff Bridges doesn't approve. So like with him like doing the hero thing of like running around town and trying to save her from the big gorilla, you can tell that it's like I don't think he cares about her emotionally as much anymore.
So while he's on the phone, Kong just kind of sneaks in and just grabs her. I'm like, wait, huh?
Yeah.
So
yeah, the big giant mechanical hand comes in through the door of the bar, and she could run away, but she just kind of stands there and he grabs it.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges tells the guys like, hey, he's headed to the Twin Towers, and Godzilla starts scaling the side of the Godzilla. King Kong. It's been a long day. King Kong.
It's been a long month.
Yeah. King Kong he is scaling this. Jeff Bridges takes the elevator up to a point where Jeff Bridges is supposed to be scaling the Twin Tower. And not at like the 10th floor, the 20th floor. He is up like at an insane height on the outside of the building.
Yeah. In case you weren't aware, Twin Towers were pretty tall.
They were enormous. Yes.
Yeah. Looking at the interior of that elevator, I was gasping when I saw it was well over 100 stories. So yeah, the gorilla is outpacing the elevator somehow, though. But also, I like that they put like a Barbie doll on his shoulder for when he's using both of his hands to climb. So like, I guess he put her there to hold on to his fur or something.
He has incredible upper body strength, so yeah.
Oh yeah, he's jacked.
Yeah.
But yeah, long story short, we get to the top of one of the 2 towers, and Dwan is in his hand. He's looking at the moon, and then we hear helicopters, because 70s, and instead of biplanes, it would probably make more sense to send helicopters. But then we get like a pointless thing here that I'm glad it's here, but it's totally pointless. It's kind of like one of the monsters in Big Trouble in Little China, where it's just like, whoa, what the fuck was that? And it's gone as quickly as it showed up in the sewers. Basically, before the helicopters there's some guys with flamethrowers that just appear on the roof.
Yeah. How the fuck did they get there?
Yeah, how the fuck did they beat both of them to the roof? And not only that, they are deliberately disobeying orders.
Yeah.
They were told to stand down because
they took the
gorilla
window,
has a hostage.
They took the window washer.
That's right. Yeah, they took the exterior elevator,
which would take a long time to get up there. Also, I'm not taking the fucking window washing thing up there. Are you out of your fucking
scary.
mind?
The wind up there, man.
The wind. You didn't think about the wind.
No, it's fucking scary. But yeah, these motherfuckers, there's like 3 of them. They all have fucking flamethrowers, and they see that he's carrying a woman, and they just start shooting fire at him.
And he jumps from the one tower to the other.
It's pretty great. It looks really fucking stupid.
There's a really funny shot of Jeff Bridges when they jump over. And the guys with the flamethrowers are running. You can just see Jeff Bridges on the outside of the building with his arms.
He looks like one of those Garfields with the suction cups on the inside of a car windshield.
And that's how he spends the rest. Like the climax of the film is like just pressed up against this window outside.
Yeah, before I rewatched this movie, that particular angle of him has always been burned into my mind. Like since I first saw this movie, because it's the most unflattering angle for Jeff Bridges, especially with the beard, like the big bushy beard. Mm-hmm. And at one point, so Kong grabs like some sort of gas tank from the roof, and he underhands it. Yeah. he granny shoots it to the other tower, and it blows up the flamethrower troops. And Jeff Bridges' reaction is like a frenzied well, it's like, hang on, 3 people died.
Well, the problem with this angle is Jeff Bridges has like blonde hair, and it's hard to see his eyebrows. So with this angle where you're looking up at his face, he doesn't look like he has any eyebrows. He just looks crazy.
He looks like an insane person.
Yes.
like he doesn't look stable.
He looks like his dreams in Big Lebowski when he's like going underneath the lady.
Yeah,
when he's going underneath
I know
the
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
When his eyes are all bugged out and he's got his head leaning back. Yeah, it looks exactly like that. So if you're curious, look that up.
And they've got fucking miniguns on this helicopter, and they are just lighting them up.
This should be a slaughter. Unfortunately, 2 of these helicopters get punched by Kong. It's like, what are you doing? Like, just stay. Like in Rocky 2, stay away from him.
I mean, just
stay away from him.
He's getting clipped by bullets the size of a banana, and they are accelerating at the speed of. There's no break.
These are machine cannons, not machine gun, machine cannon.
Yeah. But you have to have him grab one out of the air.
Yeah, and he gets 2 of them though, and he does a double axe handle. It would have been nice to see like a clothesline or something. rock bottom on a helicopter.
Yeah, you do kind of feel bad for him in this last section. Like I don't know if the way his face changes. He's less menacing here, and he does seem a little more like kind of sweet.
Yeah, so this was what Kyle and I had mentioned before. This is the Jesus moment, where this is where Kong turns into like a martyr for a second here, where he gets kind of tortured, like he death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
So he gets chewed up by these machine cannons, these Vulcans. And yeah, he is just covered in blood. This is actually very gruesome.
It is.
In an otherwise, mostly tame movie, but the amount of bloodletting here and all the squibs going off is pretty nasty shit. There's a reason why I wasn't allowed to watch this movie when I was very young. It was probably boobs over blood, but a combination of the two.
My parents were more likely to let us watch the bloody stuff than the boobs for some reason.
Here.
Yeah.
Same here. Yeah. That's,
I don't know how Predator 2 went under the radar, but yeah, I'm just picturing, because he looks like the John Cleese's gorilla from George of the Jungle, so I'm like really feeling bad now. I'm like, gosh, man.
I wonder if Rick Baker was involved in that at all.
That is a very, very good possibility.
Yeah, you look that up. I'll keep things moving. But yeah, something about Rick Baker's acting here. He does look very pathetic and just spent. Also, for some reason the nosebleed in particular makes him look particularly pathetic. Where it's like he's got no chance here. He's just getting his ass kicked. And again, credit to Jessica Lange. Like, she's really selling the emotional beat here. Where this is, I think, where I can't remember if we did this on the episode or before, but it's important to note that this version of the characters, the first one that really tried to establish like a concrete romance between his lady captive and him, the big gorilla that is, and this one, much like the Peter Jackson one, has her pleading with him to pick her up again because she knows that they won't shoot at him as long as he's holding her. That's a huge deviation from the 1933 original, where Fay Wray was not terribly pleased about being on top of the Empire State Building at the end of that movie. For fuck's sake, she was getting married. Like, she was engaged. They do pay lip service to that in this movie, where Charles Grodin does ask, "Are you kids getting married? Is there any chance I can get you two like hooked up together? It'd be great for the press." But they kind of like sidestep that. Like I said, these two characters don't have chemistry. That's what's interesting, is that Kong definitely has her heart. Jeff Bridges is hot, but they have nothing in common.
No.
Like, he's a PhD intellectual that is a humanitarian, and is probably really obnoxious and boring at dinner conversations.
Oh no, he's a dull dud. Yeah.
Yeah, he'd probably like always drag things into like heavy territory. It's like,
he's a corrector.
Really?
He's a corrector, and he'll like.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually.
Yeah. Well, actually, like, oh my God, would you just let me talk?
Just let go.
Just let it go.
It's like this is the Daily Show / like, yeah, this is the Daily Show generation. It's like, I need my edutainment. You gotta spice it up, otherwise I can't pay attention. Yeah. It's like, if you're gonna throw facts at me, you gotta have a joke in between.
She seems like a material girl. Like she's needing a dude with a little more money.
Yeah, she material girl, and just not stupid, but just ignorant.
Yeah,
like just not terribly interested in the world.
Yeah,
and on paper, they're a terrible fit.
Yeah,
like, they wouldn't last.
No.
Anyway, long story short, she's in tears. She's bawling. Kong is shot to shit, and he falls off the roof, and we get a reverse problem, special effects problem. So there's a thing in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 movie, which nobody cares about because it sucks, where a dude falls off of a cliff, and then they could have cut away from it, but instead they held on the shot. And something is wrong with the blue screen or the optical effect, where the dude does a Hans Gruber fall, like same technology and whatnot, but he's like turning into a dot, and for some reason they just held on the shot, and instead of him like hitting the water or like hitting the ground or something, he just blips out of existence. But they continue to hold on the shot, so he's like, ah. And they have the reverse of that in this one, where Kong rolls off. He falls on his back, and then he rolls off of the World Trade Center. And we get a shot looking up from the ground level of the towers, and it's just tower, and then blip, there's a gorilla. He just appears. You should look it up, Kyle. It's fucking hilarious. Because it's a good like couple tenths of a second where it's just the tower, and then bam, gorilla, and then he falls towards you. But yeah, he falls. He comes crashing to the ground. Gets a very dramatic death where I believe that there's like a heartbeat playing over the entire thing, very slowly slowing down. And then a huge crowd masses around his fallen corpse, including Dwan, who's like front and center while the press is taking photos of her. And everybody around her is like pushing her around and stuff. And like clearly they want like a photo of her, but they're also like physically like kind of jostling her and like putting her in weird positions and stuff. And this very end of the movie here is what I was curious about, what you, if anything, thought about. Was I think Jeff Bridges sees her they're like, he's in the crowd and she's standing in front of the gorilla and being harassed by the press and the police and stuff, and they like look at each other and they're 20-30 feet apart, and he just gives like a look like, oh Dwan, and I think they don't reunite.
It's like the end of Mad Max Fury Road. Like they just look at each other and then he's just gone. Yeah, I don't know what this is about.
I think it's supposed to be some sort of commentary about like, I don't know, selling out or like seeking like vacuous, fame.
Yeah, selling out was a big thing when things were cheap. And it's like, oh, you're just doing this for the money. Now it's like, I will do anything for money. Are you kidding me? Like, I got bills to pay. Back then it was like, I kind of got bills to pay. It's not a big deal. So yeah, selling out was a bigger thing. I'd love to sell out.
Yeah, I mean, we still had like we still had a little bit of the hippie generation left over in the mainstream and stuff. So like the idea of becoming a corporate shill was probably not held in high regard in some circles, but it's just a very curious moment in an otherwise very straightforward movie where it's just like, these two people who have been positioned as like our breeding pair, all of a sudden like he's very judgmental of her and she looks like she's exactly where she wants to be, but she's not happy about it. So I think there's a message there. For sure there is. I just don't get it.
I don't get it. I did the conversion rate on some of the expenses in Mad Men, and I'm like, what the you're getting this house for that much money? That's insane. And I'm like, that's a steal. So yeah. Yeah, I guess, selling out or being a stooge it was just kind of frowned upon. I'm like, dude, I'd love to be a stooge.
It's like, you want me to take a picture in front of the big gorilla?
How much does it
sign me up?
Yeah, does it like you're gonna pay me to be the face of the oil company? Yeah, sure. I'm told to be the model in this. Yeah, totally. How much you gonna pay me?
Yeah, but that's the end of King Kong 76. Somehow we talked about it for a very long time, and yet I don't know that anything really happened.
Nothing happened in the movie. It's not good, and it, like I said at the beginning, it's disappointing because I think it starts off pretty strong. I like the way it starts off. It just goes nowhere, and I think budget was the limitation. I don't think they could do a lot of cool stuff, so they were limited to the drama and the romance of King Kong and Dwan, which is still very weird, and I don't understand the sexual undertones of this film.
Which there are many.
There are many. I'm not sure they really understood. Maybe it was like subconscious, and the producer was just horny the whole time, and he was having them build these things like, you have to have it going in and out, and they're like, but why? He's like, don't worry about that. Just have it going in and out. Just got this thing on my mind. Little did he know. Maybe he realized it when he was watching it. He's like, oh shit. Like, I think I know what I was thinking when I had him do that.
like in the premiere for the movie, you just hear like, oh shit. I'm sorry.
Did you ever watch Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story?
I did. Yeah.
So he has that. He gets like that. He's got like the orchestra. He's like going through some stuff, and he's got all the different things. And like, are you upset because your brother was cut in half? He's like, shh, I'm going through some stuff. So he shushes him up. I'm like, I feel like that's what the producer was like on this. And they're like, why do we need to put the big shaft in there? Da-da-da-da. I'm working through some stuff.
Well, yeah, like I said, the 70s can't speak for the entire decade, but there certainly was a stretch where it was a very horny decade. I'm pretty sure we had Charlie's Angels and Dukes of Hazzard and fucking Dallas. And also, when it came to pornography and stuff, there were fewer outlets. You had to go to the movies, and you didn't. If you were really lucky, you saw a nipple. More often than not, you didn't. But at least you got the suggestion of one.
I don't even think Larry Flint's Penthouse was out at the time. Like, we literally just had Playboy and maybe some underground porno mags.
Yeah, maybe Hustler or some shit. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know the timeline on pornographic magazines, but
does.
Point is, horny shit in mainstream movies was like a treat for the dads of the world and stuff.
Like the cherry on top.
Yeah, it's like I get to see a gorilla smash some stuff up, and hey, she's nice.
She's nice looking.
And you mean I can watch this with the family and like they'll be okay with it?
All right.
Nobody's gonna be suspicious. Like, wow, this is a great arrangement. I like this. But yeah, I mean, I have heard that Dino De Laurentiis was a very hands-on producer, so this is definitely probably his baby. John Guillermin, as far as I know, was mostly a hired gun. So yeah, whatever was in this movie was what Dino wanted, and Dino knows movies. But I think that's a wrap on King Kong 1976, directed by John Guillermin, maybe. But if you'd like to catch up on any of our other Catching Up on Cinema content, you can find all of that collected on our website at catchinguponcinema.com. We also have a couple of social media accounts in the form of an Instagram at Catching Up on Cinema, as well as a Twitter at Catching Cinema, so feel free to hit us up there. And we are available on pretty much any podcasting platform you can imagine, so Google it. That being said, though, thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.